Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Invasion of All Realms, I Become a God by Signing In. Chapter 41. I built a magic circle below the third floor to collect the energy overflowing from the mineral veins for me, but now all the energy in the magic circle has disappeared without a trace. This was not done by you, could it be done by me? Wang Ling looked at Yi Hao coldly. If you dare to steal his things, you will die. I don't know about this. Yi Hao frowned, not feeling that this matter had anything to do with him. Space ring. Wang Ling was about to continue speaking when he suddenly discovered that Yi Hao was holding a space ring in his hand. Yes, it is definitely a space ring, and he will never admit it wrong. This made his heart full of jealousy, but then, his face was filled with excitement. Because this space ring is also his. Quote. Yi Hao followed the other person's line of sight and frowned when he found that the other person was looking at the space ring on his finger. He looked up at Wang Ling, and what he saw in his eyes was unabashed greed. I didn't expect that you actually have a space ring. You must have hidden my energy in this space ring. Give me the space ring quickly and let me check it. If there is really no energy of mine in it, then I will return it to you. After finishing speaking, Wang Ling walked towards Yi Hao, his breathing slowly becoming rapid due to excitement. Roll. Yi Hao looked at the man in front of him coldly and saw through the other man's tricks at a glance. If he really hands over the space ring in his hand, I'm afraid he won't be able to explain why. Moreover, he could feel a killing intent from the other party's body. Although the other party hid it very well, he could still detect this very easily as his mental power had reached the liquefaction level. In other words, the guy in front of him has no intention of letting him go. In response, Yi Hao decided not to hold back. He punched out directly, and terrifying energy and blood came out of his body, wrapping around his fist. Possessing terrifying power, it can easily break a boulder. How could you be a martial artist? Wang Ling saw the other party's energy and blood flowing out of his body. Even though he was well informed, he couldn't help but take a breath. In a hurry, he could only retreat backwards to avoid the opponent's fatal blow. Then, after stabilizing his body, he spoke. What, are you scared? Yi Hao sneered and looked at Wang Ling in front of him. That's right, during the baptism, Yi Hao had already activated the silver heart. Its qi and blood have also been continuously getting stronger during these 17 days. Finally, before waking up, he broke through to the martial arts realm in one fell swoop. And once you break through, you will reach the third level of the martial arts realm. In other words, he currently has more than 300 points of energy and blood. Coupled with his double attack talent and the extraordinary flying sword in his body, he even dared to compete with the master-level experts. Therefore, in his eyes, Wang Ling, who is only in the martial arts realm, was nothing more than that. Since he has been offended to death, this guy must not be allowed to stay. After realizing that the other party had the strength of a martial artist, Wang Ling realized something was wrong. The information he had previously investigated should be false. Otherwise, how could a disciple from an ordinary family have such great strength? Since he had already offended the other party, he could only offend the other party to death, and it was absolutely impossible for him to let the other party escape. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and took out a jade pendant from his arms and crushed it. The blue light flashed past and turned into a small magic circle, wrapping the entire staff in it. In fact, this jade pendant is just an array eye. The real array is below the third floor, which is the array he uses to absorb energy. With the cover of this magic circle, he can safely attack with all his strength without attracting other attention. Red Flame Palm. After the preparations were completed, Wang Ling rushed towards Yi Hao. When he got close, he slapped Yi Hao on the chest with his palm. As the energy and blood surged in his body, red flames instantly enveloped his palms, adding a sense of power. This is the second-grade martial art, Red Flame Palm, which has been cultivated to the level of Dacheng. It is definitely not comparable to the third-level martial arts masters. Fire attribute skills. Seeing the flames emerging from the opponent's palms, Yi Hao had a hint of envy in his eyes. In high school, except for the children of wealthy families, most students practice basic skills. Only after entering college can they obtain the skills with attributes from the university. It's a pity that he is now a martial arts master and can still only practice basic skills. As for the skills with attributes, the power is naturally higher than the basic skills, and the opponent also has a fire attribute skill with extremely strong attack power, which is much more terrifying. Teizu Chengquan. Yi Hao didn't think much about it. Facing the opponent's attack, he also used his Teizu Chong fist. After all, he is a peak martial artist with attribute skills, so he doesn't dare to hold back too much. After he became a martial artist, his artistic conception became more and more solid. Fist and palm strike. Bang! Under the collision of terrifying forces, there was a huge explosion. How is this possible? Wang Ling, who originally thought he had a chance to win, was blown away by Yi Hao's punch, and his whole body fell directly into the wall. He struggled to get up, but found that his right arm had no movement at all and was actually completely useless. In disbelief, he raised his head and looked at Yi Hao, but he saw the strange phenomenon behind him. He instantly realized something and couldn't help but uttered two words like a dumbfounded chicken. Artistic conception. No wonder, with the strength of the third-level martial artist, he can defeat himself, the peak martial artist, with one blow. He is actually a genius with artistic conception. He died unjustly. As this death, Yi Hao looked at the man whose head had drooped and walked over slowly. The magic circle beside him gradually dissipated after losing its controller. To be on the safe side, Yi Hao still used his mental power to explore and truly confirmed that the other party was dead. This is too weak. The guy in front of me was so weak that he was killed by his own punch without even using his double attack talent. I really don't know how to practice. I don't want to have the strength of the peak martial arts master at all. In fact, this cannot be blamed on Wang Ling. His strength is all improved by the magic circle below. The magic circle below, called the Spirit Gathering Magic Circle, can gather the surrounding energy to refine it into a special elixir. After taking it, it can greatly increase one's energy and blood. This array has advantages and disadvantages. Although the improvement speed is fast enough, after all, it is not a result of one's own practice. It is similar to an enlightenment, so it is definitely not as good as the monks of the same level in terms of combat ability. Moreover, the Wang Ling in front of him has not cultivated his martial arts to the level of artistic conception at all. Even if he breaks through to the Grandmaster realm, he is just an empty name, but does not have the combat power of a Grandmaster. Blessings come and misfortunes come, fate has already been determined. Take this first. Looking at the invalid magic circle, Yi Hao walked over, took the magic circle's eye in his hand, and looked at it carefully for a while. After confirming that the other party had become ownerless, he put his own mark on it. As for the formation body below, just let the opponent stay here. No one knows about it anyway, and you can still get some energy in vain. When he walked out of the workshop, he saw the man from before looking at him with horror on his face. You should know that your manager took action against me. Yi Hao walked over and glanced at the man in front of him gently. The moment he saw the man in front of him turned pale, he realized that the man in front of him must know everything that happened inside. However, this time it was not the manager who came out, but him. Then his expression changed. I'm sorry, I don't know. When the man saw this scene, he backed away crazily and turned around to escape. Unfortunately, in the next second, a small white sword passed between his eyebrows and flashed by. The next second, he fell heavily to the ground and lost his breath. You're lucky to die in its hands. Yi Hao withdrew his white sword and looked at the service staff who were stunned with fear, with a faint smile on his lips. Come to your general manager, I need an explanation. Yes, I'll go right away. Zhao Li nodded quickly, fearing that the man in front of him would have his eyes red and kill him too. Although he is also a high-level warrior, he didn't even see clearly when the small sword appeared just now. When the small sword appeared in Yi Hao's hand, there was already a touch of red on it. It is not difficult to imagine that if he really dared to refuse the conditions of the evil star in front of him, his fate would be exactly the same as that of the guy who was killed before. To be honest, he only chatted with the dead guy a few times, but he must not suffer an unreasonable disaster. I knew there was something wrong with that guy. Now that something happened, he still needs me to wipe his butt. It's really bad. A grumpy voice came from afar. Not long after, a burly man slowly walked towards Yi Hao. When he saw clearly Yi Hao's slightly younger appearance, he was also slightly stunned. However, the good qualities he had developed over the years brought him back to his senses, and he instantly restrained his angry temper and put a smile on his face. As soon as he arrived in front of Yi Hao, he bowed quickly and stretched out his hands to hold Yi Hao's hand. She was very embarrassed and said, "I'm sorry, this is all my mistake. May I ask, how is our manager Wang Ling doing now? He wanted to grab my space ring in the workroom and had murderous intentions, but I killed him in return. I need Manager Li to give me an explanation. Why is there a situation of snatching customers inside Tangtang Wanji Mall?" Yi Hao looked at the strong man in front of him coldly, and then glanced at the nameplate on the other man's chest, which had his name and position written on it. Li Chang, General Manager. This piece of trash is actually dead. Li Chang cursed secretly, with 10,000 idiots flying past in his heart. He did not expect that a guy who was already at the peak of martial arts would be killed by a high school student who seemed to have never even graduated from high school. He had long warned not to provoke those children from aristocratic families. Even if you have to do something, you should do it cleanly. I never expected that something would happen now. Won't the other party investigate in advance? Do you need him to teach you about this kind of thing? Now he has a huge headache and has no choice but to bleed. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain it if it went up to the top. After all, his background couldn't stand up to investigation. I'm sorry, this matter was entirely caused by my lax discipline. Therefore, I am willing to use this inner elixir of the 4th grade Demon King as compensation. Sir, do you think so? Quote. Li Chang took out a purple monster inner elixir from his space ring, which contained rich energy and blood, and even exuded a faint fragrance. Watching the other party take away the inner elixir of the 4th grade Demon King in his hand, his heart couldn't stop bleeding. Although he has reached the realm of Grand Master, it is not easy to kill a Demon King. What's more, after reaching the realm of the Demon King, he already has intelligence comparable to that of a human being. Knowing that they are facing a dead end, most Demon Kings will choose to self-destruct, not wanting humans to get their bodies. Therefore, the chance of obtaining the Demon King's inner elixir is very high, which also reflects the preciousness of the Demon King's inner elixir. This is a Demon King inner elixir that can only be obtained after killing more than a dozen Demon King level beings for decades. It was originally used to break through the realm. Now, all we can do is give it up to others. Okay, I just hope this is the last time. Yi Hao put the inner elixir of the 4th level Demon King into the space ring, took a deep look at Li Chang in front of him, and kept his aura and appearance in mind. Then, he got up and left. He didn't believe that Wang Ling, a branch manager, dared to do such a thing alone without any instructions. The Li Chang in front of him, as the general manager, did not participate, so he absolutely did not believe it. It's a pity that he is not the opponent of the Grand Master yet. What's more, standing behind Li Chang, there is also Wanji Mall, and he is not willing to have a stalemate with them. Otherwise, even the inner elixir of a 4th level Demon King would not be able to calm the anger in his heart. Looking at Yi Hao's leaving figure, Li Chang felt that his lungs were about to burst with anger, but he had no way to take action in Wanji Mall. Not good. Suddenly, he seemed to have remembered something and hurriedly ran into the workshop. When he saw Wang Ling's body, his eyes lit up and he immediately started groping for him. After searching for a long time to no avail, his face became increasingly gloomy. Sure enough, he discovered it. Li Changhai's tone was full of murderous intent. He was the one who handed over the previous magic circle to Wang Ling, and he accounted for the majority of it. But now, the formation eye is gone, and he can't get the elixir out of it at all. Go get me something. Thinking of this, there was a hint of gloom on his face. He took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. The message will be sent to me later, but you have to remember that this is the last time. I always feel like I've forgotten something. Yi Hao was lying on his bed, tossing and turning, always feeling that he had forgotten something. When he discovered that the normal sign in talent had already returned to his body, his face turned dark. The opportunity to sign in for 17 days was wasted. Yi Hao then remembered that he had been in a deep sleep during the baptism. It's a pity that this golden finger doesn't have the ability to sign in automatically. Yi Hao sighed leisurely. Since the host has not signed in for 17 consecutive years, the sign-in reward this time will automatically increase by 1 level. Congratulations on obtaining the Advanced Talent, Conqueror. Conqueror. Advanced Passive Talent. Each attack can add a layer of status to yourself. Each level of status can increase your attack power by 30%. Currently, it can stack up to 12 layers. Current level. 2. Number of layers plus 2. Upgrade requirements. The number of layers increases with the level. Not signing in can actually affect the next sign-in. Doesn't it mean that the longer the interval, the better the rewards you will get? Advanced Talent. Conqueror. This is obviously a reward that can only be obtained by signing in with Advanced Talent. But now, I just haven't signed in for 17 days, so the rewards I got for signing in have been upgraded to a higher level. If you haven't checked in for a longer period of time. This also gave Yi Hao a bold idea. However, the requirements for talent sign-in and talent upgrade are also extremely simple, that is, after a certain number of sign-ins, the level can be improved. These two ways of obtaining rewards also gave Yi Hao a headache. For him, there are two good choices, one is to gamble on luck, and the other is to play steadily. If you bet on luck, even a more advanced sign-in may have some rewards that he doesn't need much. During this period, the rewards for not signing in will be wasted. Choose to play slow and steady. Daily check-in rewards. Very stable. As long as you insist on checking in every day, you will soon be able to upgrade to a high-level talent or even a super talent. You can sign in every day and get a nice reward. Forget it, unless absolutely necessary, just sign in every day. Upgrade your sign-in talent to a high-level talent, and then you can get a high-level reward every day. Thinking of this, he suddenly became enlightened. This talent is really strong. Yi Hao looked at his Conqueror talent. As its own level increases, its level will be improved. Now that he is a martial artist, which is equivalent to the second level, his Conqueror talent has been upgraded to the second level, and he has gained 2 additional layers. Each layer can increase your attack bonus by 30%, and 12 layers is a 360% attack bonus. Moreover, Conqueror is a passive talent. It can be activated independently as long as it attacks. It does not need to consume too much energy and blood at all. It is like an innate ability. I just don't know if I can superimpose my double attack talent. Yi Hao looked at his double attack talent and Conqueror talent. If the two could be superimposed and used together, it would produce an effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. Pity. Unfortunately, Yi Hao quickly completed the experiment. And he learned how powerful the Conqueror's talent was. Even when attacking the air, he could still superimpose his Conqueror state. After the full stack state, the blood all over his body turned crimson, faintly flashing with golden light. It looks extremely cool. After the stack was full, Yi Hao successfully used his double attack talent. Unfortunately, the effect of the two is not 360% times 300%, but 360% plus 300%. In this way, a lot of harm was avoided. I seem to be a little greedy. Suddenly, Yi Hao smiled with relief. And despite having so many talents, he actually felt dissatisfied. If others knew about it, they would probably beat him up. Thinking of this, Yi Hao turned his head and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Zhang Sa's figure appeared in the living room again. Where have you been during this time? In the living room, looking at Yi Hao who was intact, Zhang Sa breathed a sigh of relief and then complained. Yi Hao yawned and explained helplessly, "Didn't I tell you that I went into seclusion? You don't know that after you went into seclusion, many transfer students came to the school, each with exaggerated strength. For this reason, the school even opened a monster class, and the treatment in it was even better than that of the genius class. In our class, only Bai Ling went in with that guy Ling Chonger." Zhang Sa sat down and expressed his bitterness to Yi Hao. "I can't help it. Who said that the high-grade soul stone veins were discovered? I just didn't expect that it would attract so many transfer students." Yi Hao knew about this matter just after he came out yesterday. He had no choice but to do it. The class group was too lively. There were tens of thousands of messages in one day. He learned what happened as soon as he finished browsing. It's just that he is a little unclear. Is the real purpose of these transfer students really for those high-level soul stones? You know, even students from this school are not eligible to obtain high-level soul stones. How could these transfer students have a chance? This puzzled him. Zhang Sa couldn't laugh or cry. Do you still remember the guy who ran out of the soul crystal? What, has anyone discovered that guy? Yi Hao was instantly interested. Unfortunately, they didn't have time to stop the guy, and they didn't even see the other person's race clearly. Zhang Sa nodded heavily. That's a water unicorn. It's actually a strange beast in the classic of mountains and seas, the water unicorn. Hearing this name, Yi Hao was slightly stunned. This world also has the Book of Mountains and Seas, and the water unicorn is one of the strange beasts recorded in it, and it is also an ancient mythical beast. According to records, the water unicorn is a creature with extremely powerful demonic power and is a beast that understands the world. In addition, water unicorn governs water, and water has the meaning of attracting wealth and treasure. Therefore, in other records of secret worlds, the place where the water unicorn is located must have a supreme treasure. In fact, if it weren't for those guys at the top who couldn't bear to lose their own face, they might choose to suppress their own realm and directly enter the secret realm to look for the water unicorn. In addition to finding the treasure, there are also peerless geniuses who want to prove themselves and gain the recognition of the water unicorn so as to become the true king. In this way, they can obtain supreme benefits. Zhang Sa once again broke the news. The water unicorn is a mythical beast that can listen to the destiny of the king. Being recognized by the other party is destiny and a true king. In this dragon kingdom, the most powerful thing is the country. Driven by the huge state machinery, they control most of the secret realms within the dragon kingdom and possess resources that are unimaginable to ordinary people. But not everyone is eligible for infusion of national resources. Therefore, a long time ago, the country created a genius list to list and count the geniuses in the entire country. All those who are on the list are protected by the state, accompanied by powerful guardians, and the state machinery operates to warn those old-school strong men not to interfere with the growth of the geniuses. This is to prevent shameless guys from suppressing others with their great realms. This is how they are made. Tianzhao can display his own means to show his strength. Under this situation, the geniuses all emerged, and the martial arts of the Dragon Kingdom became more and more prosperous. In just a few hundred years, several strong men who exceeded the boundary level emerged from the mainland. P.S. Blue Star is called the homeland in the eyes of the Blue Star people, but in the eyes of the abandoners, Blue Star is also called the Old Land. Those who transcend the boundaries refer to those powerful beings who have surpassed the upper level of the Blue Star world. The higher you rank on the genius list, the more terrifying the resources and attention you receive. Therefore, even the peerless geniuses who have been on the genius list will suppress their realm and choose to enter the secret realm to find the water unicorn and gain his approval. Once recognized, not only can you get help from Shui Qilin, but you can also get huge fame and blessings, thereby improving your ranking in the Tianzhao class. With so many benefits, I'm afraid few people would choose to refuse. All the unparalleled geniuses on the genius list are here. Yi Hao's eyes were full of fighting spirit. He wanted to see how powerful these peerless geniuses were. Yi Hao, I'm not trying to hit you. Although you are very strong, those who can be on the list of geniuses are basically genius masters under the age of 20. Even after they entered the secret realm of the Back Mountain, they suppressed their realm to the second level. However, their martial arts skills have been truly cultivated to the level of artistic conception. They even possess no less than 3 artistic conception martial arts, and they have also practiced powerful attribute techniques, which are far beyond what you and I can compare with. Fortunately, these unparalleled talents have already been booked by top universities. Otherwise, in this year's martial arts exam, we would be beaten by these guys and lose confidence. Quote. Seeing Yi Hao being so confident, Zhang Sa couldn't help but be shocked. Tell everything you know truthfully. Also, in his eyes, no matter how powerful Yi Hao is, he is just an ordinary person. How can it be compared with those peerless geniuses? The parents of these extraordinary geniuses are inherently extraordinary, and the children born from them naturally possess powerful talents. When they are in the womb, their parents use various powerful treasures from heaven and earth to nourish the fetus in their bodies. When he was born, he was naturally far superior to ordinary people. Since childhood, he has been bathed in all kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures, monster essences and blood, beaten his body, and completed the baptism so that he can grow up like those ancient mythical beasts. Ordinary people can only practice basic internal skills since childhood, but they practice more powerful attribute skills. Before he was born, he was ahead of others step by step, and since he was born, he has skyrocketed. This is why on the genius list, there are basically very few geniuses from ordinary families, and they are basically the children of big powers. After all, they were born in Rome from the beginning, while ordinary people lived a miserable life and could not yet understand the true location of Rome. It's just because they are strong that it makes him feel interesting. If they are too weak, I think it's okay. After completing his first baptism, Yi Hao has not gone all out. The last time he killed Wang Ling, he did not even use his talent. Now after learning that a peerless genius has entered the secret realm of the Back Mountain, he is extremely excited. As a result, he also needs a real battle to determine his position. Look at the difference between yourself and those geniuses. Seeing Yi Hao, who was still so confident, Zhang Sa opened his mouth slightly, but was shocked and speechless. It seems that in his eyes, the good brother at this time has become possessed. I actually want to challenge the genius on the genius list. You must know that this genius is not a student in the genius class of their school, but a real genius. Even in the Dragon Kingdom, they are rare. And Yi Hao actually dared to challenge such a peerless genius. Even if the opponent's realm was suppressed to the second level, it was not something that an ordinary person could get involved with. Seeing that Zhang Sa remained silent for a long time, Yi Hao smiled slightly and stopped explaining the problem. When he defeats Tianzhao and climbs onto the Tianzhao list by stepping on Tianzhao's body, the other party will naturally believe what he said today. Then, he also changed the topic, looked at the other party's body, and found that the other party had entered the realm of a warrior, and smiled slightly. It seems that you have not wasted these 10 days and gained many benefits. He could see that the energy and blood in Zhang Sa's body was very stable, and he had reached the 6th level of a warrior. Obviously, Zhang Sa also gained a lot of benefits while mining. Hearing what Yi Hao said, Zhang Sa nodded. Since the Earth Dragon turned over, the underground soul stone veins have been leaked, and the endless energy has ushered in countless monsters, even the monsters in other areas. I came from thousands of miles away to get a piece of the pie. It's a pity that no matter how powerful these guys are, they can't break through the upper limit of the secret realm and can never advance to 3 stars. The moment they appeared, they were completely wiped out by the magic circle deployed by the school. The monstrous blood energy and the energy overflowing from the mineral veins intertwined to form a special energy tide. This is also an opportunity for me. I caught up with the energy tide as soon as I entered. Not only did I successfully break through to the warrior realm, but I also reached the 6th level of warrior in one fell swoop. Quote, "You're so lucky." After listening to Zhang Sa's explanation, Yi Hao finally understood why Zhang Sa's level in front of him improved so quickly and was so stable. It's actually because of the energy tide. This is an excellent opportunity that only comes once in a century. That's how he was met by the other party. I have to say that the other party's luck is really terrible, if it weren't for his golden finger. I'm afraid that Zhang Sa in front of me is the real protagonist of this world. The previous high-grade soul stone veins and soul crystals were also discovered by the other party. Now there is another energy tide. Just don't be too outrageous. Maybe I'm stronger than you now. Then, as if he had thought of something, Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao in front of him with a provocative look on his face. The blood and energy in his body continued to surge, and he was eager to try. Ever since he was young, Yi Hao's scores in both liberal arts and martial arts examinations have been higher than his. Now that he has had the opportunity of such a huge energy tide, he has reached the 6th level of a warrior. His level must be at least better than his opponent's. If he doesn't fight Yi Hao now, he will have no chance when the opponent catches up. Are you sure you want to fight me? Looking at Zhang Sa, who was eager to try, Yi Hao's mouth slowly opened. The majestic energy and blood rushed out of the body, faintly carrying golden light spots. Finally, a huge incarnation of qi and blood formed behind him. Why are you a martial artist? Zhang Sa's expression suddenly changed as he looked at the terrifying incarnation of qi and blood. You must know that releasing qi and blood is a method that only strong men in the martial arts realm can use. After a retreat, he actually broke through to the realm of martial arts master. This is too evil. Moreover, Yi Hao's qi and blood can actually form the incarnation of qi and blood, which is a powerful method that requires condensing one's own qi and blood to a certain level. Yi Hao grinned. Then we still fight. No fight, no fight, you are already a martial arts master, and I'm going to give you a spanking. Zhang Sa waved his hands repeatedly. He was not the kind of guy who liked to be abused. Okay, let's go to school. Seeing that Zhang Sa had no such intention, Yi Hao felt bored and took back his blood incarnation, then stood up and prepared to go to school. Since the transfer students arrived, the school has lifted the constraints of the secret realm in the back mountain. As long as they are high school seniors, they can enter the secret realm to practice. What I'm fighting is the idea that one person with more people bullies others with fewer people. It is said that the back mountain secret realm has shown signs of advancing to the intermediate secret realm. It's just a matter of time. Once the back mountain secret realm advances to the intermediate secret realm, the upper limit of the level that can be accommodated there becomes level 4, that is, even the strongest humans in the Grand Master realm can enter it. Let's go. Zhang Sa picked up the last steamed bun on the table and stood up. Zhao Li. When he came to the secret place in the back mountain, Yi Hao didn't expect that he would actually see Zhao Li, who had disappeared for many days. At this time, Zhao Li seemed to be much taller than before. Wearing a light blue casual suit on the upper body and a gray short denim on the lower body, revealing a section of white, straight and round legs, which are pretty but also cute at the same time. Yi Hao, let's go together. Seeing Yi Hao's appearance, Zhao Li's eyes suddenly lit up and she hurriedly walked over with a sweet smile on her face. This is the little brat you like. In Zhao Li's mind, a gray figure passed through Zhao Li's sight and saw Yi Hao's appearance clearly, with a hint of curiosity in his tone. I have to say that the little guy Xiaonizi is interested in looks really good. She just didn't know what the other party's ability was. If the ability was not good, she couldn't watch Zhao Li get in. 33rd Ancestor, stop talking, don't let Yi Hao notice anything strange. Zhao Li heard the voice in her head and said quickly. Then, she subconsciously looked at Yi Hao, hoping that the other party would not notice anything strange about her. When the ancestors of the Zhao family sense that their life is approaching, they will choose to enter the ancestral realm and leave their inheritance there, waiting for future generations to pick it up. The person inside Zhao Li's body at this time was none other than Zhao Xuaning, the 33rd generation ancestor of her family. A truly strong man with extraordinary soul-level talents unexpectedly discovered another set of functions of his talents after his death, and lived in a spiritual form for hundreds of years. It wasn't until she met Zhao Li that she chose to leave the ancestral realm. Just him. If you want to discover me, you have to practice for a few more lifetimes. Zhao Xuaning's tone was full of disdain, and he didn't think the young man in front of him could find him. But then, her tone was full of surprise, and she couldn't help but ask, Xiaonizi, are you sure that your little lover's birth is very ordinary? What's wrong? 33rd Ancestor, Yi Hao's family is an ordinary person, but I have never met his father, only his mother, who seems to be an ordinary person. Although she didn't know why the 33rd Patriarch asked this, Zhao Li still told the other party truthfully what she learned. It seems that Yi Hao's father is a bit mysterious. He has actually completed the first baptism and opened the first divine treasure in his body. Before the Grand Master, he will not have any bottlenecks to speak of. As a spiritual person, Zhao Xuaning directly saw through Yi Hao's body and discovered that Yi Hao had completed the first baptism and even opened the first divine treasure. You know, when she reached this point, she was already a Grand Master. The little guy in front of me has already completed his first baptism at the level of a martial artist. Without a strong supporter behind the other party, it would be impossible to complete the first baptism. After all, the resources required for baptism are terrifying, far beyond what an ordinary family can provide. This was the real reason for her doubts. The 33rd Ancestor, Yi Hao really completed his first baptism. As a member of an aristocratic family, Zhao Li naturally understands things far beyond ordinary people, and naturally also understands things like baptism. But even her family can only collect enough resources for one baptism a year. And it takes at least 10 resources to make it possible for a person to complete the baptism. In the Zhao family, only the heirs of the family head are qualified to enjoy the power of baptism. As far as she knew, the heirs of the Zhao family had consumed more than a dozen baptismal materials, but still had not completed the first baptism. But she and Yi Hao had only met for a few days, and the other party successfully completed the baptism, which was really unbelievable. Yes, the most important thing is that he also opened the divine treasure in his body and gained peerless magical powers. I just don't know what kind of magical powers he awakened. At the end, Zhao Xuaning's tone contained a slight sigh. Her mental power is very powerful, but it also has some limitations. She could only see some superficial conditions inside the other person's body, but she had no idea what his talents and divine possessions were. However, the magical power awakened by Shenzang is not simple. Why do I feel like my heart has become empty again? Zhao Li, who was chatting happily with Yi Hao, heard the 33rd ancestor in her body say this. Once again, I felt that the gap with Yi Hao was getting wider and wider. Zhao Li, what's wrong with you? I feel like you're a little unhappy. Yi Hao felt that Zhao Li's mood on the side was a little not right, so he quickly comforted her. Hearing Yi Hao's concern, Zhang Sa quickly echoed, that's right, if there is anything bad, just say it. Xiao Nizi, I'm here and I will help you. Zhao Xuaning did not expect that in Zhao Li's heart, Yi Hao, a boy, would already occupy such an important position. Just because he said that the other party had completed the first baptism, he was hit like this, and he quickly comforted him. Zhao Li quickly asked, 33rd ancestor, is what you said true? Of course it's true. Zhao Xuaning nodded. With her ability, it would be easy to promote Zhao Li to Grand Master. As for the future, she would not be able to intervene. Every king's path is unique. Those who learn from me will live, those who resemble me will die. I'm fine. I just thought of something sad. I'm fine now. Seeing Yi Hao with worry on his face, Zhao Li felt warm in her heart. In addition, after receiving 33's affirmation, she quickly responded. It's okay. Yi Hao and Zhang Sa looked at each other and nodded. Afterwards, the three of them entered the secret realm together. No, this is inside the forest. The moment she opened her eyes, Zhao Li's expression changed drastically, and her pretty face was filled with solemnity. The forest in the back mountain secret realm belongs to the central area and is also the most dangerous place in this secret realm. It should be because Yi Hao broke through to the realm of martial arts, so heaven cancelled the restrictions and teleported us directly here. Zhang Sa turned to look at Yi Hao and smiled helplessly. Squad leader, you are actually already a martial arts master. The speed of your training is almost as fast as those guys from the monster class. After knowing that Yi Hao had completed his first baptism, Zhao Li was not too shocked that Yi Hao had been promoted to the martial arts realm. She also knew that there was a monster class in the school. The students in it were basically transfer students from other provincial capitals, and their backgrounds were no less than hers, who was from one of the 4 major families in Anhai City. These disciples of our family have been training their bodies with big medicines since they were young. Once they start practicing, the big medicines in their bodies will start to take effect, and the speed of practice is as fast as flying on an airplane. But now, Yi Hao's speed may be able to catch up with the speed of these guys. It's all luck. Yi Hao smiled. If it hadn't been for some mistake, he had saved that little girl Zhou Xi and obtained the 4th grade blood spiritual ginseng, and he would probably still be at the 3rd level of a warrior now. However, those disciples from the monster class are indeed terrifying. There are some people with innate awakening talents in it, which means that they have been practicing for far longer than them, and maybe there are already beings in the master realm. After all, there are people in the list of geniuses. Those who can enter the list of geniuses are all young masters under the age of 20. I just don't know which one in the monster class is the peerless genius. It's a human bear. Just when a few people were chatting happily, Zhang Sa's expression changed and he pointed in a direction with his finger. In that direction, a black bear man more than a foot tall stood up and stared at this direction, with bile flowing from the corners of his mouth. The human bear smelled the scent of human blood from so far away. This taste made it wake up from its sleep instantly after eating human warriors, so it quickly got up and rushed over, wanting to taste this delicious food again. This guy seems to think of us as snacks. Yi Hao, who went first, sensed the opponent's existence with his mental power. He originally planned to go around and ignore the opponent. After all, their purpose was to go to the high-grade soul stone vein, not here. Moreover, with his double attack talent, he needs to kill the 1st level monsters, not the 2nd level man-bear in front of him. However, now that the other party is here, it can't refuse. In the previous world, bears were protected animals, but not in this world. Since the other party is thinking about eating the three of them, then it is a matter of courtesy for him to be thinking about the other party's bare paws. Can you beat me? Zhao Li's eyes were a little worried. According to her worldview, the combat effectiveness of monster beasts at the same level was far greater than that of humans. Don't worry, Yi Hao can deal with this guy very easily. Zhao Xuaning looked at Zhao Li, who was already trapped, and said helplessly. Let's eat bear paws for lunch today. Yi Hao chuckled, stepped on his steps, and rushed directly towards the human bear. In the blink of an eye, the whole person came to the front of the human bear. The human bear looked at the human who suddenly disappeared, and quickly looked around, trying to find the other person's figure, but when the other person appeared again, he was already in front of it. Roar! Feeling that he was being teased, the human bear let out an angry roar, and the next second, a huge bear paw like a cattail leaf slapped Yi Hao's face. The road between enemies is narrow. Hearing this familiar roar, Yi Hao was stunned for a moment, and the next second he thought that the guy who disturbed his purity by the stream before turned out to be the human bear in front of him. Be careful, Yi Hao. Looking at Yi Hao, who was in a daze, Zhang Sa and Zhao Li's expressions also changed, and they quickly reminded him. This kid is actually in a daze at this time. Zhao Xuaning also couldn't understand why she was still in a daze during the battle. Just when she was about to take action, she withdrew her mental power in the next second. This bear's blow can't save Yi Hao's life, so let this kid suffer a little. Otherwise, you won't be so lucky next time. Almost forgot about you. After hearing the two men's reminders, Yi Hao came to his senses instantly, then slapped his hand and started fighting with the bear. It's too big. Seeing Yi Hao actually fighting hand-to-hand with the second-level monster, Zhang Sa and Zhao Li also felt that Yi Hao would suffer a big loss this time. But what happened in the next second made the two of them feel incredible. It was obviously a second-level monster known for its physical strength, but at this moment it was slapped away by Yi Hao. You used too much force. Looking at the human bear that was shot away, and then at the bear's paw that had been smashed by him, Yi Hao suddenly felt regretful. Fortunately, the other party also had 3 complete bear paws, one for each of the 3 of us, which was just right. Yi Hao, it's going to run away. Looking at Renshang, who stood up and was about to run away, Zhang Sa quickly shouted. My lunch. Seeing Renshang trying to escape, how could Yi Hao let him go? The qi and blood in the body kept surging, making a heartbeat like thunder. There is a faint golden thunder snake flickering on the body surface. With a big jump, the golden thunder snake was wrapped around him and rushed directly towards the direction of the man-bear. What kind of talent is this? Zhao Xuaning had been watching Yi Hao's every move when he took action, but gradually, she discovered something was not right. The combat power of Yi Hao in front of her seemed to far exceed that of a being of this level. This made her think about whether the opponent had activated his talent. At least from the current point of view, the opponent's combat effectiveness had at least reached the peak level of a martial artist. What surprised her the most was that every attack from the opponent was more powerful than the last attack. Gradually, he surpassed the martial arts master and reached the master-level combat power. Strange talent. Zhao Xuaning searched for a long time in his memory and found several similar talents, but the side effects of these talents were very serious. But now Yi Hao seems to be fine. It can be seen that activating this talent has no impact on him. This was the thing that puzzled her the most. Eating bear paws for lunch today. Yi Hao took out his knife, cut off the bear's paw, and walked back. Then, he opened his space ring and took out the prepared cauldron and seasonings. Zhao Li looked at the space ring on Yi Hao's finger, and was shocked. There was a trace of worry on her beautiful face, and she quickly asked, Squad leader, where did you get the space ring? She was afraid that the other party's space ring was obtained by joining the aristocratic family. In this way, Yi Hao's future will be restricted by those aristocratic families. Unless, one day, Yi Hao can become so powerful that no aristocratic family can ignore him. My father gave it to me. Don't worry, I won't join any aristocratic family. Yi Hao naturally knew what the other party was thinking and explained with a smile. That's good. Zhao Li's face became rosy after her thoughts were read, and she lowered her head in embarrassment. It smells so good, Yi Hao, when did you get this skill? Zhang Sa was not affected by the two people's dog food. His attention was always on Yi Hao's hand. After Yi Hao took care of the bear's paw, he put it on the fire to roast. Yi Hao held the knife and gently made a few cuts on the bear's paw. Drops of golden oil overflowed from the cuts and fell on the flame, making a sizzling sound. Seeing that the bear's paw had turned golden yellow, Yi Hao quickly put the honey he had prepared on it, and soon a refreshing fragrance drifted towards Zhang Sa. Smelling the fragrance, Zhang Sa couldn't help but swallow, and then looked at Yi Hao with disbelief, wondering when the other party learned such a skill. There are still many things you don't know. There are seasonings here. Add whatever you like. Yi Hao shook his head proudly, then placed the roasted bear paws on the dining table nearby, then pointed at the condiments and said with a smile. You are very well prepared. If I didn't know, I would have thought you were here for a trip. Looking at the bear paw in his hand, Zhang Sa took a big bite of the meat and chewed it, while looking at the grill, iron picks, wooden table, and wooden chairs beside him. Eat yours now. Yi Hao rolled his eyes at the other party. How could the other party know that as a foodie, he has been thinking about doing this for many years? It's a pity that he didn't have a space ring before, nor did he have the ability to protect himself like he does now. Otherwise, he would have done this long ago. Compared to Zhang Sa, Zhao Li was more ladylike. She took a knife and gently cut off a small piece of meat, then put some seasonings and sauce on it, then put it in her mouth and tasted it carefully. Squad leader, if we eat like this, won't we attract other monsters? Looking at the human bear corpse not far away, Zhao Li was a little worried that the opponent's blood would attract other monsters. I did it on purpose, just because I was afraid they wouldn't come. Yi Hao smiled. However, this area is the territory of man-bears. Even if they sense the energy and blood of man-bears, those low-level monsters do not dare to come in rashly. Unless they are monster beasts of the same level as humans and bears. It's a pity that when the three of them were full, Yi Hao didn't wait for the guy he wanted to wait for. By the way, how was the secret place we went to last time? While packing his things, Yi Hao thought of the Zhao family's secret realm on Louis Avenue. In that secret realm, another new secret realm was refreshed. Zhao Li shook her head. I don't know. Yi Hao was stunned for a moment, not quite understanding what the other party meant. Didn't your father tell you? Ever since a new secret realm came out, that secret realm has slowly advanced towards the intermediate secret realm. It still attracted the attention of the superiors. After they came, they took over directly. All of us in the Zhao family have been kicked out, and now no one knows what happened inside. Quote. Zhao Li's face was full of helplessness. Even though the Zhao family is one of the 4 major families in Anhai City, they don't even dare to ask questions when faced with the attitude above. The only thing they can do is obey. Is it possible that that secret realm will be upgraded to a high-level secret realm? Yi Hao said half-jokingly. Maybe, but the Zhao family can no longer interfere. Zhao Li said helplessly. One day, our Zhao family must ask for justice from above. Zhao Xuaning's mood rarely fluctuated because she knew Yi Hao's guess was true. After she came out of the ancestral realm, she controlled a puppet and entered the secret realm, and saw a shocking scene. Earth-shaking changes have taken place inside, and many high-level treasures of heaven and earth have been born. Even she would be moved by them. But there were super warriors guarding it, so she didn't dare to take action. If it weren't for the intervention from above and the resources in the secret realm, she would even have the confidence to cultivate a true emperor for the Zhao family. It's a pity that there is no chance. But one day she will ask them for an explanation about this matter. 33rd Ancestor, what's wrong with you? Zhao Li also noticed something was wrong with Zhao Xuaning and quickly asked with concern. The other party is her ancestor, so he believes in her and will accompany her out of the ancestral realm. But don't let anything happen. Fine. Zhao Xuaning shook his head gently. She couldn't tell Zhao Li about this. At least until the other party becomes the king, you can't talk to the other party. Zhao Li started to get distracted again. Zhang Sa, who was walking behind, gently pushed Yi Hao aside, and curled his mouth in the direction of Zhao Li. Is it possible that something happened to the Zhao family? Yi Hao was also a little confused. However, he didn't hear any rumors. It's you. Just when several people were having their own thoughts, several people appeared not far from each other. Among them, Wang Li, when he saw Yi Hao, his eyes suddenly showed a hint of excitement, and then he winked at his friend beside him. The four people immediately surrounded Yi Hao and the others. Wang Li has been looking for Yi Hao these past few weeks, but he seems to have disappeared, which makes him very depressed. Unexpectedly, I met him in this forest. Just settle old and new grudges together. Now that he has joined the Tianzhao class and received resource support from aristocratic families, his energy and blood have already exceeded 10, and he has become a true warrior. As for Yi Hao, as a child of an ordinary family, he must have never tasted the Qi blood pill until now. The only thing the four of them need to pay attention to now is Zhang Sa, who is also a disciple of the Tianzhao class, but they have seen each other take action before, so they can't judge the other's strength, but with him and the four of them here, 4 students from the prodigy class. The opponent is dragging too, and the chance of victory is his. Wang Li, it's not necessary. Didn't Yi Hao say a few words to you in class before? Is this the case? Zhang Sa frowned. Zhang Sa, you have nothing to do today. If you insist on standing up today, don't blame me for being ruthless. Wang Li looked at Zhang Sa coldly and replied unceremoniously. Didn't he just bully the female students back then, and he didn't do anything to those female classmates, plus he skipped classes from time to time, didn't do his homework, and sneaked out to surf the internet. The other party actually said that he was wrong in front of the whole class, and told the teacher that his parents were invited and he suffered countless beatings. How could he not avenge this? Yi Hao, please kneel down and kowtow 3 times today, so that I can hear the sound. Let's wipe out the past. Otherwise, don't blame me for not remembering our former classmates. Before he finished speaking, Wang Li pointed at Yi Hao. You should first ask Zhang Sa Tong if he agrees. Yi Hao glanced at the 4 people in front of him. The tallest one was a 3rd-level warrior. Well, he was really afraid of doing it himself. These 4 guys couldn't even withstand his first level of strength. Although he had wanted to take Wang Li's life before, although the other party was a bit stupid, he had no reason to kill him. The most important thing is that now he is a martial artist, and a low-level warrior can no longer stand in his eyes. The other party was not his opponent before, and in the future, he will also be an unimaginable existence for the other party. Today, let's learn about this matter. Zhang Sa, you really have to stand up for this guy. You know, he is only a junior talent, and in the future he will reach the highest level of a warrior. And I will even be able to become a master-level expert in the future and rule an area. Are you sure you want to offend me, a future grandmaster, for his sake? Wang Li looked at Zhang Sa, who stood up in confusion, then looked at Yi Hao not far away, feeling a trace of jealousy in his heart. Zhang Sa in front of him was actually willing to stand up for Yi Hao. Even if the other party's future achievements were limited, nothing would change. Think about my brothers again. When I was caught by my parents and teachers, they broke off the relationship one by one. After learning that he had awakened his advanced talent, he started licking himself again. Compared with Zhang Sa, his group of friends are simply clumsy friends and cannot be compared with them at all. I'm going to show off today. What can you do to me? Zhang Sa grinned and said with a smile. He couldn't intervene in the previous battle, but he could still pinch the little trash in front of him. Then don't blame us. I'll knock you down first, and then we'll cause trouble for Yi Hao. After finishing speaking, Wang Li nodded to Cao Ping on the side, and the 2 of them attacked Zhang Sa. At the moment of the attack, Wang Li's whole body was instantly petrified, and his original normal skin color changed to khaki, turning into a stone man. In this state, his attack power and defense power are greatly increased. This is his talent, petrification. The only drawback is that when he is in the petrified state, his speed is much slower, making it difficult to entangle the opponent and launch effective attacks. And Cao Ping possesses a high-level talent, the Eyes of Medusa. All life forms within the range covered by his mental power will be slowed down. The target he looks directly at will be petrified. It is a very powerful control talent. With Cao Ping's control, Wang Li can display his true combat power. Medusa's eyes. Zhang Sa looked at the 2 people rushing towards him. Just as he was about to rush out, he found that his body had become much heavier and his speed had naturally slowed down. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Cao Ping not far away, and couldn't help but think of some information in the group before. He immediately understood the other person's talent, and he who originally wanted to look at him quickly lowered his head. How do you two fight one? Zhao Li looked at the opponent playing 2 against 1 and wanted to join in. Her talent is an auxiliary talent, authority, which can provide Zhang Sa with attribute increases. Zhang Sa is Yi Hao's friend, and naturally she is also her friend. She didn't want Yi Hao's friends to get hurt. It's a pity that some people don't want her to go there. Just watch. When Wang Li's 2 remaining classmates saw Zhao Li who was about to take action, they held their hands in front of her to prevent her from passing. Don't worry, Zhang Sa can be dealt with. Yi Hao walked over gently, patted Zhao Li on the shoulder and comforted her. He naturally knew Zhang Sa's strength. Although he was not his opponent, he could still easily deal with Wang Li and the others. When Zhao Li heard Yi Hao's words, she remembered that Yi Hao was strong enough to crush these 4 people and relaxed. Zhang Sa, take my punch. Wang Li looked at Zhang Sa in front of him, a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes, and at the same time he clenched his fist and hit the opponent's chest. In the petrified state, any attack he makes at will has considerable power. Even an intermediate warrior, that is, a warrior at the 5th level of warrior heaven, would not dare to take his punch forcefully. I really thought I was afraid of you. Zhang Sa looked at Wang Li coldly. The next second, his eyes turned red, and the energy and blood in his body were like surging waves. His body instantly grew taller, from the original height of 1.8 meters to a giant of over 2 meters tall. The muscles bulge horribly, with veins bulging out, like coiled candle dragons. The violent talent, a good combat talent. Zhao Xuaning, who was in Zhao Li's body, could see Zhang Sa's talent at a glance. Moreover, she could see that the opponent's natural ability had evolved once, from intermediate to advanced. The other party's mental strength is also far beyond that of ordinary people, which means that the other party can remain in a violent state for a longer period of time. It's a pity that compared to that boy Yi, Zhang Sa's mental strength is only the same. Zhao Xuaning was really curious about Yi Hao. The mental strength of ordinary people is about 0.5. After becoming a warrior, your mental power will increase to a value of 1. Zhang Sa's mental power is about 3 times that of a warrior of the same level, reaching a value of 3. But when it came to Yi Hao, it seemed outrageous. Although the mental power will increase to a certain extent as the realm increases, no matter how terrifying the martial artist's mental power is, it will never exceed the value of 10. But in her estimation, Yi Hao's mental power has reached at least 100. Only the mental power that reaches 100 will liquefy. Generally speaking, liquefaction of mental power is the standard for a strong master. Now a martial artist appears. This made her couldn't help but suspect that the divine treasure obtained by Yi Hao was related to spiritual power. On Zhang Sa's side, the 2 fists finally touched each other. Violent Titan PK petrified state. How is that possible? As soon as their fists touched each other, Wang Li felt something was wrong. He was originally confident, but his face was instantly filled with panic. The next second, a terrifying force came from the opponent's fist. He had no time to react and was directly knocked away by the punch. Wang Li, how are you? Seeing Wang Li who was beaten away, Cao Ping also looked in disbelief. He did not expect that Shi Hua, who was known for his head-to-head confrontation, would actually be knocked away, but the other party seemed not to be unusual at all. He rushed over quickly and helped Wang Li up. I have no feeling in my right hand. Wang Li subconsciously wanted to raise his right hand, but found that he couldn't feel it at all. Then he instantly realized that his right hand must have been beaten unconscious by the opponent in the battle just now. Fortunately, Zhang Sa showed mercy at the end. Otherwise, his hand might really become useless. It's ridiculous that he just wanted to teach the other party a lesson, but he didn't expect that he couldn't even withstand a punch from the other party. Are you still fighting? Zhang Sa walked over slowly, the breath inside his body surged, exuding a terrifying aura. With a terrifying pressure, he pushed towards several people. Just as Cao Ping was about to take action, he found that Wang Li had stopped him with his left hand, and he couldn't help but reveal a trace of doubt. Although the opponent is very strong, there are 4 of them, and he doesn't believe that the opponent can beat 4 of them. The other 2 people also looked at Zhang Sa with unhappiness. In response, Zhang Sa just looked at it coldly and ignored it. He is a 6th level warrior, and together we are no match. The moment they fought, Wang Li knew that he was no match for his opponent. Both of them are high-level talents, and they are both combat talents, so there is not much difference. In addition, their martial arts training are mostly the same. Then the level of realm is the absolute factor that determines victory or defeat. Zhang Sa joined the Tianzhao class a few days later than him, and originally thought that his level would be higher than that of his opponent. But he never expected that the other party had already reached the 6th level of the warrior, which was 4 small realms higher than himself. This was the reason why he was killed instantly, without even using any martial arts. What? The 6th level of warrior? The three of them looked at each other in disbelief, but Wang Li had no reason to lie to them. Then, if the opponent is really a 6th level warrior, the 4 of them combined will not be the opponent's opponent. Fortunately, I took action today. If it were Yi Hao, the 4 of you might not be able to leave alive. Seeing that several people had no intention of taking action anymore, Zhang Sa turned around and left. However, thinking that the other party might cause trouble for Yi Hao in the future, he also kindly reminded him. Not even the 2nd-level man-bear, known for his physical strength, could stand Yi Hao's fists, let alone the 4 people in front of him. Could it be that Yi Hao is really strong? Wang Li frowned and looked at the people leaving. When he looked at Yi Hao turned back and smiled softly. Fear. Wang Li lowered his head in an instant. The moment they looked at each other, he felt a strong killing intent rushing towards him overwhelmingly. When he lowered his head, the murderous intention disappeared. This time, it really scared him. It also made him believe Zhang Sa's words. What now? Cao Ping was still a little unwilling. Forget it, we can't afford to offend them. We can just go around when we meet later. Wang Li shook his head and reluctantly took out a blood-red medicine pill from the space ring and stuffed it into his mouth. Under the effect of the medicine, the right hand slowly returned to normal. Now, Wang Li will probably not cause trouble for you again. Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao and said with a smile. Yeah, not anymore. Yi Hao thought of Wang Li who was frightened by him just now, and responded with a smile. To be honest, Wang Li is just a little gangster, but he is not bad enough. Therefore, he just scares the other party. Otherwise, he would have sent the other party to see the King of Hell long ago. How long will it take to walk there like this? Looking at the 2 guys who wanted to just walk over, Yi Hao stopped. Zhao Li shook her head. What can we do? Although the 33rd ancestor in her body could take the 3 of them to fly together, that would expose each other. The current 33rd ancestor is not willing to reveal her identity, so she has no good solution. Yi Hao, if you have any idea, just say it. Zhang Sa understood Yi Hao and knew that since he raised it, he should have a corresponding solution. I'll take you on a sword ride today. Yi Hao pointed with his right hand, and a small white sword flew out from his sea of consciousness and slowly stopped in front of him. Under Yi Hao's control, the small sword rose in the wind and soon turned into a giant sword, enough to accommodate several people. A first-grade sword is not bad. Zhao Xuaning looked at the giant sword and nodded. With Yi Hao's level as a martial artist, it would be okay to fly with 3 people with swords. This is our first time flying while standing on swords. Soon, the 3 of them stood up, and Yi Hao controlled the flying sword to fly into the air, flying towards the gobi. Zhang Sa spread out his arms and stood on the sword, wanting to face the fierce wind that came next. It's a pity that this giant sword and the 3 of them are wrapped in a white protective cover, and there is no wind at all. He only had one action. When I become a martial artist, I will also be able to wield a sword. Looking at the giant sword at her feet, Zhao Li also felt a sense of heroism in her heart, and had the idea of becoming a knight and traveling around the world. There will come a day. Yi Hao smiled. Sword cultivator. A purple figure appeared not far away. When he spotted Yi Hao and the others, Yu Jian chased after them. Zhou Lin looked at the 3 people on the giant sword, thought for a moment, and then looked at Yi Hao. Because he felt that among the 3 people, the young man in front of him was vaguely headed. Out of curiosity, he also asked. What made him confused was that he didn't feel any traces of swordsmanship from Yi Hao's body. No, Yi Hao shook his head. Although he had an extraordinary talent, flying sword. However, if you have not practiced any swordsmanship skills or techniques, it cannot be considered as sword cultivation. Excuse me. At this time, Zhou Lin also realized that his perception was wrong. He bowed his hands and disappeared with his sword in front of the 3 people. That guy is so strong. Zhang Sa saw Zhou Lin disappear and then spoke. When the other party appeared, although he did not release his aura intentionally, but he still felt a suffocating sharp energy coming towards him. Only Yi Hao could face it without changing his expression and respond to the other party. It's really strong. Yi Hao nodded. He could sense that there was a terrifying power in the other party's body, which far exceeded the realm of a martial artist. He even suspected that the other party was the peerless genius on the genius list. Unfortunately, he couldn't judge the other party's true strength without seeing the other party's real move. 33rd Ancestor, can you tell the details of that guy? Zhao Li also curiously asked Zhao Xuaning inside her body. That guy's true level is that of a master who is less than 20. Zhao Xuaning did not hide anything. Her vision and strength are superior to Yi Hao, so she can tell the clues at a glance. Zhao Li guessed, is it possible that the other party is the peerless genius on the genius list? But the Grand Master is a low-level person. Even if he can enter the list of geniuses, he will only be ranked at the bottom. Zhao Xuaning was not too surprised. She was once on the list of geniuses, and she was ranked among the top 100. She naturally despises this person at the bottom of the list. Although to you, the 33rd Ancestor, this figure at the bottom of the list of geniuses is nothing, to me, it is a very remarkable figure. I don't know if I have a chance to catch up with him. Zhao Li's tone was a little disappointed, and then she looked at Yi Hao, and with a hint of excitement she said to the 33rd Ancestor in her mind, Yi Hao can definitely do it. With that kid's cultivation speed and exaggerated combat power, his future achievements will be quite high. As for you, as long as you listen to me, I guarantee that you will be among the top 100 geniuses before you are 20 years old. Quote. Zhao Xuaning said proudly, her talent is a bit special, it can increase the bloodline of the family's descendants. With her presence, Zhao Li's future may not necessarily be lower than Yi Hao's. After hearing Zhao Xuaning's promise, the disappointment in Zhao Li's heart was swept away, and she quickly said, then my future depends entirely on you, the 33rd Ancestor. Only by catching up with Yi Hao's realm can she be by his side at all times and help him during battles. Rather than being a vase. Okay, who calls me your ancestor? Zhao Xuaning responded with a smile. Arrive. Yi Hao looked down, then flew over with his sword. In the previous Gobi, there was constant wind and sand, and everything in the area was basically carved out of the same mold. But after the last time, the earth dragon turned over, the underground soul stone veins leaked, and the subsequent energy tide caused by the beast tide. In order to prevent energy from leaking out and thus speeding up the advancement of the secret realm, the school arranged a giant magic circle on it. Therefore, the area where the soul stone veins are located has undergone earth-shaking changes. The energy inside is so rich that it becomes atomized. 1 day of cultivation inside is equivalent to 10 days outside. It is precisely because of this that more and more students want to enter it. What's going on? My space ring seems to be sealed. As soon as he entered the magic circle, Yi Hao found that he could not open his space ring, and couldn't help but look at Zhang Sa. I forgot to tell you, the use of space magic weapons is prohibited in this magic circle. Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao's confused eyes and scratched his head in embarrassment. The school must have thought too carefully. Yi Hao naturally understood why the school did this. It was not to prevent students with space equipment from secretly transporting these high-level soul stones. After all, a thumb-sized high-level soul stone is equivalent to 10,000 low-level soul stones. But now we can't use space equipment, we just need to send people to guard the entrances and exits. After all, there are a lot of equipment on Blue Star that can detect soul stones. Be satisfied, we have gained enough. Zhang Sa smiled at Yi Hao. 2. Yi Hao naturally knew what the other party was talking about and nodded tacitly. Hurry, hurry, someone dug something out of pit 12. Just when the three of them didn't know where to start, several people ran towards this side. One of them said excitedly, did you dig something out again? Zhang Sa was also curious and quickly followed. You mean, you dug up living things more than once? Yi Hao followed and asked curiously. He thought of the living creature the two of them had dug up before, which was later proven to be a water unicorn. Zhang Sa looked around, slowed down, and said softly, actually, they are just ordinary monsters, but they have lived in the soul stone veins since they were young, so they feed on soul stones. After they swallow the soul stones, they will condense into pure energy crystals in their bodies. Soul crystal. Yi Hao looked at Zhang Sa curiously. In response, Zhang Sa shook his head. Although it is very similar to soul crystals, it is not, but compared to real soul crystals, the energy crystals in these monster beasts are not much different. No need for refining, just absorbed directly. The most important thing is that these monsters are not soul stones. Whoever finds them belongs to them. Even if you don't need it, you can sell it to others at a high price. As long as one of these things is found, there will definitely be a group nearby. Let's go quickly, maybe we can get a share of the pie. Quote. After finishing speaking, Zhang Sa sped up. Let's speed up too. Yi Hao directly grabbed Zhao Li's little hand, used the confused step, and instantly surpassed Zhang Sa. Yi Hao, you were always holding me back before. Seeing the right hand that belonged to him holding someone else, Zhang Sa felt that his heart was about to break, and he quickly chased after him. Not long after, they arrived at pit number 12. There were no less than 30 people digging inside a huge circular pit that was over 100 meters wide. The sound of dong 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 is endless. Everyone tried their best to find those monsters that feed on soul stones. The three of them looked at each other and started digging. It has to be me. As soon as Zhang Sa hoed down, the complete boulder in front of him turned into more than a dozen pieces. But then, a white figure flashed past, trying to escape. But he was still caught by Zhang Sa. When he picked up the creature in his hand and took a look, he suddenly showed an excited expression. What he held in his hand was a white mouse. Its body contained a strong aura of energy. It was obvious that the opponent had energy crystals in his body. Chapter 51. It's a soul beast. The white mouse in Zhang Sa's hand instantly attracted the attention of others. They stared at the white mouse and wanted to swallow it directly. You must know that if these soul beasts that feed on soul stones can grow to such a large size, the crystals in their bodies are equivalent to at least a dozen high-level soul stones. Unexpectedly, he was found by a guy who came later. It's a pity that internal fighting is prohibited in the magic circle, otherwise there will be a fight. This guy's luck is still so good. Seeing that Zhang Sa was the first to find the soul beast, Yi Hao was not surprised. After all, in his impression, the other party's luck had always been good. Squad leader, I found it too. At this time, Zhao Li's voice also sounded, filled with excitement and excitement. On her hand, there was an insect as thick as a baby's arm. The whole body is transparent, and one can see the other party's internal organs. In the other party's heart, there is an energy crystal the size of a walnut. Although it is of a different type than the monster beast caught in Zhang Sa's hand, it is also a monster beast that feeds on soul stones and is very rare. I have it too. When Yi Hao saw that Zhao Li had gained something, he couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency deep in his heart, unwilling to fall behind them. As he continued to dig, his eyes finally lit up. Because according to his mental perception, not far below where he laid the hoe, there were signs of life-like activity. The grade of the soul stone is far lower than that of the soul crystal, and it has no ability to block the detection of mental power. What's more, these soul beasts are not stored in soul stones. Therefore, under Yi Hao's mental perception, the soul beast below was unable to hide. Come out. Feeling the rich breath of life below, Yi Hao's eyes flashed with excitement, and then he clenched the hoe in his hand and smashed it down. After the ore covering it was dug away, a golden figure flew out of it in an instant, trying to escape. Come back to me. Yi Hao looked at the golden figure that wanted to fly away, with a smile on his lips. How could he be willing to let go of the potato he got? Then he waved his right hand, and blood-red energy flowed out of his body, intertwining continuously in the air, turning into a large network of blood energy. In just an instant, the path forward of the golden figure was blocked. What a big solid gold pangolin. The students around him were all alerted by the noise coming from Yi Hao's side and cast their gazes at him. When they looked at the golden figure blocked by the big blood-colored net, their eyes suddenly widened. It's really because the guy in front of me is really too big. It was a pangolin, as big as a calf, covered with golden scales from head to tail, reflecting in the sunlight. At this time, it only showed a pair of dark green eyes, looking up and down at everything around it, trying to escape. What a pity. The energy crystals inside such a big pangolin must be huge. Seeing such a big pangolin, the students on the side couldn't help but feel jealous. The larger the soul beast is, the larger the energy crystals contained in its body will naturally be. It's a pity that due to school regulations, they can't snatch it. According to the school's regulations, whoever finds the soul beast will own it. This pangolin seems to have reached the second level. Suddenly, a student's eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he looked at Yi Hao not far away with ill intentions. It seemed that in his impression, the classmate in front of him was not a disciple of the Tianzhao class. As for the monster class, let alone the monster class, then there is only one possibility: this guy is just a disciple of the ordinary class. The disciples of the ordinary class, the ones currently at the highest level, have only reached the realm of warriors. The golden pangolin in front of me was a genuine second-level monster, and it was not something that the other party could handle. What you mean is that we can wait until he can't deal with him anymore before we take action? Someone reacted in an instant, and then looked at the golden pangolin with a fanatical look, quietly running the skills in his body, preparing to take action as soon as possible. If Yi Hao is unable to recover it, the pangolin will become ownerless. At that time, they will be eligible to compete. As long as you can get a pangolin this big, even if these soul stones are no longer mined in the future, it will still be enough for cultivation for a long time. At this moment, the golden pangolin facing the big bloody net clearly felt the terror of the big bloody net in front of him. It suspected that as long as it took another step forward, the big bloody net in front of it would completely restrain itself. At that time, he can only become the meal of the human being in front of him. If you can't move forward, then retreat. Thinking of this, the golden pangolin rushed towards Yi Hao. Since the matter cannot be solved, then solve the person who raised the issue. By then, this problem will naturally be solved. This guy is simply looking for death. Seeing the golden pangolin turning back instead of trying to escape, Zhang Sa instantly sentenced him to death. How brave! Yi Hao also didn't expect that this pangolin seemed to be crazy and actually sent it to his door. As a result, he had no choice but to accept it. He punched out directly, and terrifying energy and blood flowed out of his body, instantly knocking the pangolin in front of him away. If you have a sharp eye, you can find that there is a sunken fist mark on the pangolin's chest. How is it possible that he is actually a martial artist? Could it be that he is a new transfer student who arrived in the secret realm before he could even register? Yes, other than that, there is no reasonable explanation. Another strong man in the realm of martial arts. Those martial arts university graduates who rank at the bottom are only at this level. This time the martial arts test is getting more and more terrifying, with geniuses emerging one after another. Everyone looked at the second-order pure gold pangolin that was killed by Yi Hao's punch. They all froze in shock and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Originally, they wanted to wait for Yi Hao to give up before they joined forces to deal with the pangolin. Who would have expected that the Yi Hao in front of him was actually a powerful martial artist who could kill a second-level pangolin known for its defense with one punch? They also feel funny about their own ideas. Fortunately, it was the school's rules that saved them. Otherwise, if they tried to snatch Yi Hao's trophies in the wild, they might end up like this pangolin. They don't have the confidence to take each other's punch. Later, they also became curious about Yi Hao's identity. There were many speculations about Yi Hao's identity. Slowly, Yi Hao gained the identity of a transfer student. After all, the opponent is in the realm of martial arts, and he is not in the monster class, so he cannot be in the ordinary class. Regarding this also made Yi Hao dumbfounded and too lazy to explain. How do I feel like I've seen each other there? In the crowd, some students felt that they had seen Yi Hao before them somewhere and fell into deep thought. Immediately he looked at Yi Hao and Zhang Sa next to him, and a memory suddenly came to his mind. No, he is the monitor of Class 3, Grade 3. I met him once when the school summoned the monitors of all our classes to discuss activities, and he was definitely right. However, I clearly remember how the owner of his elementary talent could have reached the realm of a martial artist. Quote, the student directly named Yi Hao's identity, but what puzzled him was that the Yi Hao in front of him was not a junior talent. How come the speed of cultivation is so terrifying? Maybe it's another Ling Chonger. Someone frowned and said, that's the guy who joined the monster class with his elementary talent. Someone exclaimed, a trace of horror flashed in his eyes, as if he had thought of something. It's a pity that until now, no one knows what the other person's talent is. Now it seems that Yi Hao's talent is also very terrifying. I just don't know what the opponent's talent is, and he can actually practice it so fast. It's hard to tell, unless the other party takes the initiative to tell you what other highly identifiable talents there are. Even if the other party activates the other talents, you can't specifically determine what the talents are. Now, the martial arts exam is very busy. If Yi Hao can get a good result in the martial arts exam, the Tianjiao class and the monster class will lose face. Looking at the people talking, some students from the ordinary class sneered and said, I hope Yi Hao can beat them. These people in the genius class are so arrogant that they don't take us seriously at all. Just give them a good meal. Stop talking, be careful to be remembered by those guys, you will inevitably get a good beating. Seeing his friend say this, he quickly reminded him. Although fighting is prohibited in the magic circle, it is difficult to say outside. 2. Even though he was extremely angry, he still chose not to say anything more. Yi Hao didn't pay too much attention to the surrounding discussions. He lifted the golden pangolin in his hand and used his mental power to directly break through the opponent's sea of consciousness, causing him to lose his life in an instant. Then he used a knife to take out the energy crystal from the opponent's body. It was about the size of a fist and was completely translucent. There were wisps of energy inside. Little purple snakes swim. What a huge energy crystal, enough to be equivalent to 50 high-grade soul stones. When Yi Hao took out the energy crystal, the surrounding discussions had disappeared without a trace. Their eyes were all attracted to the energy crystal in Yi Hao's hand. His breathing slowly became rapid. Someone even took a step by mistake. If his friend hadn't stopped him, he might have already started to snatch it. This is an energy crystal equivalent to 50 high-level soul stones. When converted into low-level soul stones, it is 500,000 low-level soul stones. It is the wealth that a family can accumulate in a lifetime. It's no wonder that he can't help but want to take action. Not bad. Although his space ring contained more precious soul crystals, Yi Hao would not have too much of them. Unfortunately, the space ring could not be opened and he put it in his pocket. Which one of you wants this thing? Looking at the body of the second-level pangolin, Yi Hao thought for a while and decided to replace it with something. Are you sure you want to sell it? Zhou Shu, who was not far away, looked at Yi Hao in disbelief, suspecting that he had heard wrongly. Although the energy crystal in the opponent's body has been taken away, this is still a genuine second-level monster. Moreover, since the opponent feeds on the soul stone, there must be residual energy in the body that has not been consumed, further increasing its value. I'll sell you 3,000 low-level soul stones. Do you want it? Yi Hao thought for a while and gave a price. This thing can't even take a punch from me. It looks like garbage, and it's only worth so much. So cheap. Zhou Shu suspected that he had heard wrongly. The lowest price of a second-level soul beast was 5,000, but the other party only sold it for 3,000. If you want 3,000, don't give it to others. Seeing the other party's hesitation, Yi Hao frowned, and after speaking, he looked at the people not far away. Yes, I want 3,000. Zhou Shu nodded quickly, fearing that Yi Hao would leave. He took out his memory card, pressed it against the card in Yi Hao's hand, and transferred the 3,000 low-level soul stones. Gone. Yi Hao looked at the changed numbers on the memory card, nodded, and returned to where he was digging. He knew that he had sold it cheaply, but he was in a hurry to dig out the soul beasts below and didn't care about the 3 melons and 2 dates. It's still here. Back in the pit, Yi Hao released his mental power and looked down. After seeing that the guy was still there, he was a little confused. After all, I had just taken out the pangolin, and it was a bit strange that the other party still didn't run away. Ignore it for now, dig it out and talk about it later. Yi Hao looked at the hoe in his hand and dug out with all his strength. He didn't expect that when he was digging, he could also superimpose the effect of the conqueror. The 12 levels of conquerors were quickly filled up, the blood in his body began to boil, and his combat power increased horribly. Feeling the changes in his body, Bayan's heart beat faster. I didn't expect that this conqueror's superimposed state could speed up the practice. Yi Hao watched as his qi and blood became stronger a lot faster. Tomorrow at most, he can reach the 4th level of martial arts. The speed of this improvement is simply terrifying. Come out. When the last piece of ore was dug out by himself, Yi Hao's eyes lit up, and then he took a few steps back, waiting for the other party to come out on his own initiative. What's going on? Yi Hao waited for a while, but did not see any movement coming from inside, and couldn't help but frown. What's wrong? Monitor. When Zhao Li was digging, she did not forget to pay attention to Yi Hao. Looking at Yi Hao, who had been staying there for a long time, she walked over curiously. We found a monster down there, but it doesn't seem to be moving. Yi Hao was not sure, but according to his mental perception, the guy was down there. The monster underneath seems to be asleep. Zhao Xuaning reminded Zhao Li with a bit of laughter. After hearing the prompt from the 33rd ancestor, Zhao Li was a little confused, and then said with a hint of uncertainty, "Squad leader, is it possible that the guy fell asleep?" "No way, I destroyed his house, so I can still sleep here." Although Yi Hao didn't quite agree with this statement, he still walked on and started digging again. In order to dig out the monster below, Yi Hao had to dig around in order to dig out the opponent completely. This move also attracted the attention of other students. Under everyone's gaze, a snow-white giant python slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It is 7 or 8 meters long and as thick as a bucket. Its whole body is covered with snow-white scales. Under the sunlight, it can be vaguely seen that it has light golden cloud-like markings on its body, and there is a golden stripe running up and down its back, making it appear extremely weird. It's another second-level monster, and judging from its appearance, it's probably an alienated golden patterned python. Someone in the crowd saw the identity of the monster below. After learning that the second-level monster below had transformed into a golden patterned python, they all gasped. The golden patterned python possesses a trace of the blood inheritance of the ancient dragon clan in its body. Among the second-level monsters, it is the top existence, equivalent to the monster-level existence among humans. In addition, after the alienation, the golden patterned python possesses terrifying combat power, and even the master is no match for it. This golden patterned python seems to be evolving. Zhang Sa looked at the golden patterned python in front of him carefully and raised his eyebrows slightly. He found that something seemed to be pressed under the body of the golden patterned python in front of him. He moved his position and saw a horrifying scene. Under the body of this golden striped python, there is actually a hind limb pressed down. This alienated golden patterned python is about to turn into a dragon. Zhao Xuaning nodded and agreed with Zhang Sa's statement, with a hint of curiosity in her tone. This golden patterned python must have been eating soul stones since it was a child, so it has undergone changes. After devouring so much energy, the blood in the opponent's body was accidentally activated, and then he started to evolve. It is equivalent to human baptism. Once the baptism is completed, the other party will successfully turn into a dragon. Among those present, apart from himself, Yi Hao in front of him was probably the only opponent of this guy. Now, our situation is not very dangerous. Zhao Li couldn't help but worry when she heard what the 33rd ancestor said. If you want to evolve into a dragon, it is not something that can be accomplished easily. What's more, after being dug out, this guy will be dead. Zhao Xuaning shook his head gently. In those powerful secret realms, during baptism and evolution, there are family members and tribesmen protecting the way to prevent accidents. After all, when evolving, it is in a sleeping state and has no defense capabilities. The golden patterned python in front of me is now meat on the chopping board, ready to be slaughtered by anyone. Only one hind limb has evolved, and it will probably take a long time for the evolution to be completed. Unfortunately, there is no time. Evolution. After hearing Zhang Sa's words, Yi Hao also walked over and saw the hind limb that had grown. Before Blue Star and the secret world appeared, those pythons were the most primitive snakes in the world, with obvious remnants of vestigial hind limbs. Now it seems that turning into a dragon should be a manifestation of bloodline return to the ancestors. Kill this guy, the energy crystals in his body will probably be terrifyingly large. Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao, eager to try. Yi Hao nodded and jumped directly. Yi Hao is really lucky. That's right, such a big golden patterned python is about to evolve into a dragon. It is currently in an evolutionary state and is completely at the mercy of others. I'd better go dig it myself. Looking at this golden patterned python, I'm afraid I won't be able to help myself. I'm almost jealous, let's go. The crowd slowly dispersed. It's better to use your mental power to give it a happy life. Yi Hao looked at the golden python in front of him and decided to directly erase the opponent's mental power and let the opponent sleep forever. Yi Hao, wait a minute. Just when Yi Hao was about to take action, a middle-aged man appeared in the distance. Then a flash came to the front. Director Liu, although you are a teacher, according to the regulations, I discovered this monster, and its ownership rights are mine. Director, you have no right to interfere. Yi Hao looked at the familiar face in front of him and said bluntly. Now he is in the martial arts realm, at the same level as the teaching director in front of him. He is not afraid of the other party. Liu Yang shook his head gently and gave an explanation. Yi Hao, it would be a pity to kill such a strange beast like this. Does Director Liu have any thoughts about this strange beast? Yi Hao instantly understood what the other party meant and responded with a smile. Also, this golden patterned python has a trace of dragon blood in its body. If it completes its evolution and successfully activates the blood in its body, it will gain its inheritance. There is a great chance in the future to become a true fifth-order true king. Yi Hao, our school can give you 100 high-grade soul stones to buy this golden patterned python, what do you think? Seeing that Yi Hao had understood what he meant, Liu Yang directly quoted the price. Hiss, 100 high-level soul stones, converted into low-level soul stones, is 1 million. That is an income that ordinary warriors like us will never earn in a lifetime. I just don't know what Yi Hao would think if I agreed directly. That's right, those are 100 high-level soul stones. After hearing the quotation from the dean, the students around him took a deep breath. When Yi Hao heard the price, he shook his head slightly and said directly, take 1,000 high-level soul stones. Deal, just 1,000 high-grade soul stones. Liu Yang's eyes flashed with pride and he walked over with a smile. Miscalculation, this old fox. Seeing the other party agreeing to his price so directly, Yi Hao's face turned dark. I originally thought that since I had doubled the price tenfold, the other party would definitely lose money, but I never thought that I would be the one losing money. The students around me were also dizzy after realizing this. They didn't expect that Yi Hao would directly increase the price to 10 times. What surprised them even more was that Liu Yang actually agreed immediately. This makes them not know who lost the money. Classmate Yi Hao, the teacher is leaving first. After completing the transaction, Liu Yang took out his weapon with excitement, cut off the golden python and the stone below, and then flew away with the stone. Why does the school need a golden striped python? Could it be used as a nursing school? Zhao Li looked at Yi Hao in confusion. With the school's current background, it is very easy to raise a golden patterned python. It is estimated that we will know about it in a short time. Yi Hao responded with a smile. Sitting on a complete vein of high-grade soul stones, and high number. One middle school can be said to be extremely rich. With enough resources, the evolution speed of the golden pattern python will definitely speed up a lot. Maybe, they will really have a chance to see each other soon. After chatting for a few words, the two started digging again. In the following time, Yi Hao relied on his own mental power to search for the soul beast. Zhao Li also relied on Zhao Xuaning in her mind to find a few. But even so, Zhang Sa still relied on his incredible luck to encounter no less than 2 soul beasts. But they had never encountered a soul beast as big as the golden python before. It's getting dark. Yi Hao raised his head and looked at the sunset slowly rising on the horizon. I'm hungry too. Zhang Sa understood Yi Hao's meaning instantly and subconsciously touched his belly. Let me see what we have for dinner tonight. Yi Hao looked at the soul beast on the ground and slowly frowned. These were either bugs or mice, and he really couldn't bear to eat them. I'm going to get something else to eat. He curled his lips in disgust, then turned around and walked out of the magic circle. I'll go with you. Zhao Li dropped the thing in her hand and followed like a follower. These two guys. Seeing this, Zhang Sa shook his head helplessly. Classmate Zhang, are you hungry? I have snacks here, do you want to eat them? Not far away, a girl in a blue dress came to the front, holding the snack bag in her hand and handed it to Zhang Sa. She looked at Zhang Sa expectantly, hoping that he would accept it. It's all junk food, forget it, I want to eat meat. Zhang Sa took the snack bag and flipped through it casually. He found that it was basically filled with spicy sticks and bread, so he gave it back to the other party with a look of disgust. When the woman saw that her good intentions were being misunderstood, she turned around and left with the snack bag in her hand. Isn't it because I didn't take away the snacks you gave me that I'm so angry? Seeing the woman leaving, Zhang Sa frowned. He immediately felt that the girl was in trouble, and he didn't know why Yi Hao wanted to play with the girl. It was better to be alone. However, he did not dwell on this issue for long before he began to continue digging for soul stones. He found that his strength was constantly improving. In 1 week, there will be the martial arts exam. In order to get into a good martial arts university, he can't relax. Zhao Li, do you like fish? Yi Hao took Zhao Li with his sword and looked for his goal. Then he remembered the creek, but still asked Zhao Li for his opinion. I like it. Zhao Li nodded. As long as the other person likes it, she likes it. Okay, let's eat fish tonight. Yi Hao nodded, then controlled the flying sword and flew towards the stream at high speed. There seems to be a fight over there. When approaching the creek, Yi Hao noticed waves of energy fluctuations coming from there. It was obvious that there was a battle ahead, and it was very fierce. Zhao Li, is that still the case? Let's take a look first. Yi Hao thought for a moment and continued flying in that direction. In his perception, there were only 2 relatively powerful life forms in front of him, reaching the 2nd level, and the rest were 1st level beings. But the distance was too far, and he was still not sure whether the 2 second-order life forms were human beings. But for him, anything below level 3 cannot even break through his defense. There is nothing to fear. How did you find me? On the creek, Ling Zonger, wearing a white robe, was suspended in the air, with a green bamboo flute under his feet. While avoiding the attack in front of him, he asked doubtful questions. There is obviously a treasure weapon in his body to suppress it, but why can the monster in front of him discover his secret? This was really hard for him to understand. The one who attacked him was a mermaid with a human body and fish tail. It had a charming face, but unfortunately, the lower part of its cheek was covered with dense blue scales, which made it look a bit scary. Yao Lu had a sneer on his face. When you die, the king of hell will tell you the reason. After saying that, she waved the blue trident in her hand, rolled up the stream water, turned into a towering python, and rushed directly towards Ling Zonger in front of her. Break. Ling Chonger's talent was not strong in combat, so he did not dare to confront the opponent head-on. Fortunately, the principal and teachers gave him many treasures. Looking at the blue anaconda that was about to catch up, he touched his right finger, and white light flew out, turning into an ancient bronze bell in the air. The ancient bronze bell swelled in the wind, became dozens of times larger in the blink of an eye, suspended in the air, and swayed gently. Shock. Ling Chonger's hands quickly turned to form a mysterious red gold seal, which was directly struck on the ancient bronze bell. Boom. The ancient bronze bell was activated by the seal, and the mottled bronze rust on it slowly fell off, slowly revealing its true appearance, and its inner charm became increasingly rich. Then, the ancient bell shook violently, and the terrifying sound wave turned into a halberd, which instantly slashed towards the towering python. Puff! The giant python was crushed to pieces in an instant and poured onto the water, causing little splashes. Another 4th level treasure. It's really extraordinary. Yao Lu naturally did not expect that this move of hers could catch the human in front of her, but what surprised her was that the boy in front of her actually took out a 4th level treasure weapon, which could only be used by Grandmaster level warriors. Arms. Although she didn't know why, the human boy in front of her was able to activate the 4th level treasure weapon, but fortunately the opponent's level was too low to fully activate the power of the treasure weapon. Otherwise, she would have no choice but to turn around and leave. It's good to know, then you still haven't left. Ling Chonger controlled the ancient bronze bell in front of him and looked at the shark in front of him solemnly. The energy and blood in his body can support him to drive the ancient bronze bell 3 more times at most. But if he can't kill the opponent within 3 times, then he is in danger. Yao Lu smiled, with a hint of sinisterness. I don't believe you can drive the ancient bronze bell infinitely. After saying that, she waved the blue trident in her hand, and the stream flowed directly upward, condensing into water snakes in the air. Go! Yao Lu directed the water snakes in the sky to sweep towards Ling Chonger. Ling Chonger's expression changed, and he formed the seal again. The ancient bronze bell in front of him swayed gently, flowing out streams of green light, and finally formed a green cover, shrouding him in it. The water snake kept hitting the green shield, making a crackling sound. I want to see how long you can last. Yao Lu waved the blue trident in his hand again, condensing into water snakes and rushing toward the green shield like one after another. Do you really want to use that? Ling Chonger looked at the fading shield with a very ugly expression. The shark in front of him obviously came here just for him. He set up a magic circle around it, making the token in his arms insensitive and unable to be sent out. But if he uses that treasure, he will suffer great losses. When did there become sharks in this secret realm? Just when Ling Chonger was about to use the treasure, a voice suddenly sounded in his ears. In the air, Yi Hao looked at Zhao Li aside with a puzzled look. I have read the rules of the secret realm issued by the school, and there is no record of the shark race in it. Zhao Li shook her head gently and replied, I don't remember either. Yi Hao looked at the sharks below curiously, with a hint of curiosity on his face. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen the existence of this race in reality. Students, please don't come down. There is a magic circle here that will prohibit teleportation. Please inform the teacher quickly and let him handle it. Ling Chonger originally thought the person coming was a teacher, but when he looked over, he realized it was two students and quickly reminded him. Although he was very curious, the young man in front of him had never seen him before, but he had already reached the level of a martial artist. However, even a martial artist might not be a match for the shark in front of him. It is better to go to the teacher. If there is time, he can save a treasure. Now that you're here, don't even think about leaving. Looking at the two people who were interacting with no one else, Yao Lu's face turned cold. He waved the blue trident in his hand, and the water snakes turned around and flew towards Yi Hao and the two in the air. Careful. Seeing that Yi Hao thought he was entangled by the sharks, Ling Chonger directly drove the ancient bronze bell and shook it violently. The terrifying sound waves rushed directly towards the water snakes and cut them off directly. You have too much time to take care of yourself, and you still want to help others. Yao Lu looked at the young man in front of him and sneered again and again. Yi Hao, please help him, they are all from the same school. Zhao Li couldn't help but said as she looked at Ling Chonger, who was almost unable to hold on anymore. Yi Hao nodded. If the other party hadn't reminded him that there was a magic circle below, he would have turned around and left. But the other party reminded him and blocked an attack for him, so he couldn't pretend he didn't see it. It's over, why did you come in? Looking at Yi Hao with his sword flying towards him, Ling Chonger's face turned a bit ugly. He just wanted to listen to him. Now, he was going to bleed heavily. Do you know where this guy came from? Yi Hao directly changed the topic and asked. I don't know. I was just resting by the creek when I was chased by this guy. I also know why. Ling Chonger's expression changed, and then he said. I can help you kill this guy, but I have to pay for it. Yi Hao took a deep look at Ling Chonger in front of him and naturally understood that the other party was not telling the truth. He immediately turned around and looked at the ancient bronze clock in front of him, looking up and down, his eyes full of excitement. Don't worry about this ancient bronze bell. Its owner is not me. Looking at Yi Hao's eyes, Ling Chonger knew that the other party was thinking about the ancient bronze bell in front of him. It's a pity that he only has the right to use this ancient clock, but he is not the owner of it. It has another owner. As for asking the other party to take action, he regarded it as a joke and did not think that the young man in front of him was the opponent of the shark. You must know that the opponent's true realm is level 3, but he chose to suppress his own strength because of the secret realm. Even if the realm is no longer there, the opponent's physical body is still at the 3rd level. In addition, the blue trident in the opponent's hand is a 3rd level treasure, which is far beyond what an ordinary martial artist can deal with. Go to hell. Yao Lu felt that he was being ignored, so he waved the trident in his hand and stabbed towards this side. I want to break the shield in front of me with one blow. Noisy. Yi Hao originally wanted to discuss the price of the sale with Ling Chonger, but he was annoyed by the shark in front of him. He flashed directly behind the shark. A terrifying figure appeared behind him and punched him hard. Yao Lu's back. Puff. Yao Lu had no time to react. He only felt as if his back had been hit by a giant hammer. His internal organs were instantly shattered and turned into flesh. The man also flew backwards and finally plunged into the water. Then he spit out a mouthful of blood mixed with internal organs, turning the stream red. So strong. Looking at the shark who was knocked away by a punch, and then looking at Yi Hao who returned to him, Ling Chonger's eyes were full of shock. He didn't understand why the guy who was chasing him to the ground couldn't hold on even a single move in front of the person in front of him. Are you a transfer student? Ling Chonger had been in both the monster class and the genius class, and it was obvious that he didn't have the person in front of him. It was obvious that the other party had just transferred to another school and had not yet had time to join the monster class. I'm in the regular class. Yi Hao rolled his eyes at the guy in front of him. Then he looked at the slightly red water and frowned. Not dead. Zhao Li understood something when she saw Yi Hao's expression. Well, he's not dead, it's interesting. Yi Hao nodded. Although he did not superimpose his conqueror status just now, he also used his double attack talent. The third level double attack talent can now cause 300% damage. In addition, the silver heart gives him continuously refined blood strength and physical body. If a third level monster is unprepared to take this hit, it will lose half of it even if it is not dead, life. But now, the other party seems to have disappeared out of thin air, which is really strange. Martial Master, regular class. At this time, Ling Chonger was still in shock and couldn't believe what he heard. In his impression, aren't the ordinary classes full of guys with low-level talents? How could someone practice so fast and have such terrifying combat power? Could it be that he is also a possessor of a special talent like him? That's right, Ling Chonger is the one Zhang Sa mentioned, the one who joined the monster class with elementary talent. It's because his talent is extremely special. Now in his opinion, Yi Hao's talent is also very powerful. However, the other party didn't seem to show it, otherwise he would have joined the monster class long ago. That guy should still be there. Yi Hao used his mental power to sense his surroundings and found that the magic circle still existed, which meant that the guy didn't die or leave, but he didn't know where he went. This was also the first time that Yi Hao's mental power had lost its effect. Not dead. After hearing Yi Hao's words, Ling Chonger came back to his senses and looked around with a solemn expression. The effect of the magic circle seems to have been strengthened. After a while, his face became a little ugly. Because he found that his body was getting heavier and heavier, as if something was pressing on him. The magic circle hidden in the dark slowly surfaced, forming a blue barrier that enveloped the creek. The disappeared Yao Lu also appeared at the eye of the formation, wrapped in a blue water polo. I want you dead. Yao Lu looked angrily at the human being not far away, with unstoppable murderous intent in his body. If it weren't for the other party, I wouldn't have lost a life. That was her natal magical power, the one she had lost last time, plus the one just now. If she dies again, she will really be gone. Pretending to be a ghost. Yi Hao looked at Yao Lu sitting in front of the formation, with a hint of sarcasm on his face. She wants to use the magic circle to mobilize the power of heaven and earth in the secret realm, so you have to be careful. Ling Chonger knew how powerful Yi Hao was, but he still reminded him a little worriedly. This formation seems to be specially created to match this secret realm, and can use it to mobilize part of the power of the secret realm. He even suspected that it was specially created by the higher-ups in the school to deal with him. Because he has rejected too many invitations from aristocratic families, it is also a crime for him, who comes from an ordinary family, to have such a powerful talent. In fact, if it weren't for the life-saving weapon given by the principal, class teacher and others, he might have been killed in the hands of this shark. Zhao Li, you go to the shore, and I'll deal with her. Yi Hao looked at Zhao Li beside him and said. He was afraid that a fight would break out and he would not be able to care about the other party. Well, take me to the shore. Zhao Li also understood the danger at this time and nodded immediately. Later, Yi Hao used his flying sword to send the opponent to the shore. You go down too. Yi Hao looked at Ling Chonger beside him, waved his hand, and a strong energy flew out with Ling Chonger and the ancient bronze bell. So strong. Looking at the ancient bronze bell that was blown away, Ling Chonger's eyes were full of horror. Facing the opponent's hand, he didn't even react before he was slapped away. It's no wonder that the shark didn't even have the strength to resist when facing Yi Hao. Human, You are the strongest one I have ever seen. It's a pity that you didn't kill me just now. Please stay here today. Yao Lu's eyes were full of strong murderous intent, wanting to split the human in front of him in half. If I hadn't despised the other person just now, I wouldn't have lost a life. This time, she will go all out and not give the other party any chance. The giant of the vast sea. She took out the blue trident and raised it high. The magic circle was activated, activating the power of the secret realm and wrapping her body. At this time, she is like the incarnation of the secret realm of heaven. She can gain the power of the secret realm with just a few moves. As she waved the trident in her hand, the stream beneath her rolled up, forming a giant over 3 feet tall. This is the martial arts of their shark clan. Through their natal talents, they can control all the water in the world and condense into a vast sea giant. With the blessing of the power of the secret realm, the giant in the vast sea at this time has exceeded the upper limit of this world and reached the 3rd level, which is the master level combat power. The power of the secret realm is indeed a high-level person in the school, but I don't know which family it is. Seeing the appearance of the power of the secret realm, Ling Zonger's face was full of solemnity. The secret realm of the Back Mountain belongs to the school, and has long ago reached cooperation with the heavenly Tao of this world. Among the higher-ups, there is even a part of the power of heaven. After possessing authority, one can briefly make one's combat power exceed the upper limit of the secret realm. However, in the school, there are many people who have the authority of heaven in the secret realm. The principal, the head teachers of the 9 major subjects, and the 6 directors of the board of directors, a total of 16 people have the power of heaven in the secret realm. Even if he eliminates the principal and the subject director of their monster class, there are still more than 10 people who are under suspicion. Thinking about it, he felt that his head was getting bigger. I want to see how strong you are. Under Yao Lu's puzzled gaze, Yi Hao punched the air with a set of Teizu's long fists. The incarnation of the artistic conception that appeared behind him became more and more solid, and was only one step away from being able to condense into reality. And his conqueror instantly reached 12 levels, gaining a 360% increase in attack power. Bai Yin's heart beat faster and faster, constantly purifying the qi and blood in his body. In the superimposed state of Silver Heart and Conqueror, Yi Hao entered a strange state. That is, there was no sign of fatigue, and he even got stronger with each fight. What a powerful talent, still getting stronger. Zhao Xuaning, who was in Zhao Li's mind, saw everything that happened in front of her through the other person's eyes. When she discovered that Yi Hao was getting stronger as he fought, she also showed a trace of dignity. Before, she had sworn that she could let Zhao Li catch up with Yi Hao. Now it seemed that she was overthinking it. With her help, Zhao Li was able to see the shadow of the other party, which made her feel very happy. It's a pity that with her eyesight, she can't figure out what kind of talent the other party has. But what she understands is that the other party is definitely not a low-level talent. This is at least a manifestation of high-level talent. How is this possible? Looking at the scene that happened in front of his eyes, Yao Lu really couldn't believe what he saw. In her opinion, the invincible giant of the vast sea was actually on par with a human boy. But as they fought again and again, she was even more shocked to find that the giant in front of her was actually retreating. If this continues, her vast sea giant will be gone. If that's all you have, you'd better wait to die. Yi Hao became more and more excited, and he waved the Teizu long fist casually, exerting his combat power beyond the limit. As his thoughts were completely understood, the artistic conception behind him was incarnated at this moment, completely solidified, and turned into a substantial artistic conception power. Seeing this, Yi Hao punched out directly, and the materialized artistic conception on his body also made the same action. Under this combo, the vast sea giant in front of him was completely at a disadvantage, and his body couldn't stop retreating. Seeing this scene, Yao Lu knew that he would be close to death if he didn't take action. She directly bit the tip of her tongue, forced out a drop of bright blood, and shot it towards the giant in the vast sea not far away. The vast sea giant instantly absorbed this blood essence. In its originally blue body, veins as thin as hair appeared, and in its pupils as big as lanterns, there were a few more human eyes. This guy is really strong. I'm afraid only the genius from the genius list can compare with him. Seeing the blood essence forced out by Yao Lu, Ling Zonger knew that the other party was forced into a desperate situation. Essence and blood are the most important source of life. Losing even a drop of it is a serious damage to the source, and it is difficult to make up for it. It was obvious that the other party was risking his life. As for Yi Hao, who was able to force the opponent to this point, he gave a very high evaluation. He even compared him with the peerless genius on the genius list. That's natural. When she heard someone praising Yi Hao, Zhao Li raised her little head proudly, as if she was the one being praised. On the other side, Yi Hao looked at the giant in front of him, with a hint of curiosity on his face. He could feel that the giant in front of him was much stronger. This made him a little more interested. He waved the Teizu long fist, and the blood in his body couldn't stop boiling. Baiyan's heart was jumping for joy and making a thumping sound. As he fought with the giant in the vast sea, Yi Hao was not in a hurry to kill the opponent with one blow. So he fought with it. What a good boy, you actually used the giant of the vast sea as a target to train yourself. Zhao Xuaning, who was in Zhao Li's mind, could see Yi Hao's thoughts at a glance. She could see that Yi Hao seemed to be able to make himself stronger through fighting. The guy wanted to run. Ling Chonger, who had been paying attention to Yao Lu, noticed something was wrong with the other party. When he saw that the other party actually took out the teleportation token, he shouted loudly. I want Yi Hao to be able to stop the other party. Yao Lu looked at Yi Hao, who was getting stronger and stronger as he fought, and she suspected that even if she had recovered her combat power at the master level, she would not be the perverted opponent in front of her. The opponent's combat power was really exaggerated. Looking at Ling Chonger, who issued the reminder, a hint of coldness appeared in the corner of her mouth. Boy, you won't be so lucky next time. In fact, if Yi Hao was not around, she might not be able to keep Ling Chonger. There is still a valuable treasure in the opponent's body that has not been used. It's a pity that she didn't have the chance to find out. Now she has put all the fault on Yi Hao. Looking at Yao Lu, who was about to escape from the secret realm, Yi Hao wanted to go there, but it was too late. Even if he kills the giant in the vast sea now, the opponent will still have enough time to escape. Watching the other party escape helplessly, he felt a headache. It would be okay if the other party dealt with him, but it would be troublesome if he dealt with his mother. His mother is an ordinary person. Certainly. Just when Yao Lu activated the token and was about to turn into white light and disappear, a voice came from thousands of miles above the sky, like a decree from heaven and earth, issuing orders and prohibitions. It actually really fixed the white light. Make it unable to move. The principal is here. Hearing this voice, Ling Chonger was overjoyed because he recognized who the owner of the voice was. The principal must have discovered something was wrong with him and came to look for him. After all, he had made an agreement with the other party to meet in the secret realm before. As the principal of No. 1 Middle School, he has the greatest heavenly authority in the secret realm of the Back Mountain. The Yao Lu in front of you is the best example. Not long after, a middle-aged man appeared in the distance. Wearing a straight black suit, his hair was slicked back and shiny. If you didn't know the other person's identity, you would probably think of the other person as a big brother in society. Lu Chun looked Ling Chonger up and down, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief when he found that the other party did not have any injuries. The opponent was their hidden trump card in Anhai No. 1 Middle School. It took a lot of hard work to raise the opponent's level to the realm of a martial artist. If he was killed in this secret realm, he would go completely crazy. P.S. The lower the talent, the lower the cultivation speed. Even the degree of absorption of heavenly materials and earthly treasures is far lower than others. Therefore, to upgrade a martial artist with a junior talent to the realm of a martial artist, the resources required are more than 10 times that of a high-level talent. Looking at the principal's eyes, Ling Zonger naturally knew what the other party wanted to do, and responded, "Principal, I'm fine." "It's okay." After receiving the other party's answer, Lu Chun nodded. Then, he first glanced at Yi Hao not far away, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. However, now was not the time, so he turned his attention to Yao Lu not far away. With a slight click, the white light turned back into Yao Lu's appearance. Hiss. Immediately afterwards, the energy between heaven and earth was gathered in front of Lu Chun, and turned into energy chains, binding the demon in front of him, making him unable to use any power in his body. Yao Lu's face was ashen, struggling desperately, trying to break free. But the more she struggled, the tighter the chains on her body became. Don't waste your efforts, you can't break free of this magic forbidden chain. Tell me who the master behind you is, and I might be able to spare your life. Quote. Looking at Yao Lu, who was still struggling, Lu Chun asked with a sneer. I don't have a master. If you want to kill him, just kill him. Seeing that Yao Lu could not break free from the chains on his body, he completely gave up the idea. She originally wanted to reveal the person behind the scenes, but she suddenly recalled that her family members were still in the hands of the other party. She suddenly felt despair and gave up resistance completely. I want to see who is behind you. Lu Chun was not only a strong man in the Grand Master realm, but also a fourth-level soul master. The spiritual power in his mind was condensed into substance and forged into a soul weapon. This is not what Yi Hao's half-heartedness can compare with. Then, he directly used his powerful mental power to put Yao Lu in front of him into a coma, and invaded his sea of consciousness. So cruel. Just when he was about to explore the deepest part of the opponent's sea of consciousness, Lu Chun's face suddenly turned cold, and then he controlled his mental power and returned to his body. The next second, Yao Lu exploded in front of him and was no longer complete. Principal, what's going on? Ling Chonger's expression changed, he came into the air and asked. Lu Chun smiled helplessly, the person behind this shark has placed a restriction in the depths of her sea of consciousness. Once it is discovered that someone is prying into her memory, this restriction will explode. And I'm sure that if the other party really tells the thoughts of the person behind the scenes, this ban will be activated on its own. Only Anhai City and the 4 top aristocratic families can achieve such ruthless means and abilities. Quote. As he said that, he subconsciously looked at Zhao Li not far away. He understood the situation of the 4 major families in Anhai City very well, and naturally he also knew Zhao Li's identity. Anhai City, the only daughter of the head of the Zhao family among the 4 major families. The other party happened to appear here, could it be related to the Zhao family? In the blink of an eye, I thought, there was no need for the Zhao family to send their direct descendants to take action. As far as he knew, what Zhao Li awakened was only an intermediate talent, and it was also an auxiliary talent. Principal, I almost said it, it was her boyfriend who saved me just now. Following the principal's gaze, when he saw the other party looking at Zhao Li, Ling Chonger thought that the other party had misunderstood something and quickly reminded him. Is he also from our school? How come I haven't seen him before? Previously, Lu Chun had become curious about Yi Hao not far away. A little guy who can fight back and forth with the giant in the vast sea. And he could see that the other party was honing his martial arts skills. If the other party can become a student of his own school, this martial arts test will definitely make Anhai know. One middle school a step further. Principal, he is from our school. Ling Chonger thought of something interesting and had a weird smile on his face. Then why haven't I seen him in the monster class? The genius class doesn't seem to have his name either. Lu Chun frowned slightly. In his memory, this was indeed the first time he saw Yi Hao in front of him. Moreover, he has seen the lists of all the students in the prodigy class and the monster class. There's no other person's name on it either. Transfer students are naturally out of the question. After all, every transfer student must pass his test before they can join. Anhai no. One middle school does not collect garbage. If you want to take a sip of soup in the secret realm of high-level soul stone veins, how can you get in if you don't have enough strength? He is in the ordinary class. Ling Chonger shook his head gently. He told the truth that he couldn't believe before. But the reality is like this, and he has to choose to believe it. Quote. Li Chun's face was filled with questions, and then he looked at Ling Zonger in front of him with disbelief. He really couldn't believe what the other party said. That boy was actually from their school, and he was just a student in an ordinary class. What kind of idiot put him in the junior class? Seeing Ling Chonger's expression that didn't look like he was joking, he was stunned and asked immediately. In his opinion, beings of this level are already stronger than some transfer students. Ling Chonger thought for a moment and expressed his inner thoughts. Perhaps he wants to hide his strength. After all, there are many people staring at this group of geniuses. In the Dragon Kingdom, in addition to the official forces, there are also those powerful families and reactionary forces. Some of these reactionary forces come from foreign organizations, and some come from people who are bewitched and controlled by high-level monsters. Their purpose is to assassinate the genius of the Dragon Kingdom and weaken the growth rate of the Dragon Kingdom. The existence of the Guardians was established for these talented people. However, only those with extraordinary level and above, or those with special talents, are eligible to apply for the protection of Guardians from above. As for talent owners whose level is too low, it is unlikely that they can apply for asylum. Even though he possesses such a special talent, because he is at the junior level, even if the principal and other leaders jointly applied, he was not approved by the superiors. Therefore, the principal and others placed their own treasures on Ling Chonger to save his life. Otherwise, he might have been assassinated by someone long ago. Even so, in this secret realm, he almost fell. Is it possible that he is another possessor of elementary talent? Suddenly, Lu Chun seemed to have thought of something and murmured. It stands to reason that if you reach a high level of talent, you will be selected into the genius class. In other words, the person in front of him is very likely to have the same basic talent as Ling Chonger. Of course, there is also a possibility that after awakening, the young man in front of him did not report his talent. After all, according to regulations, students can choose to conceal their talent level. Of course, if you choose to conceal it, you will not be able to enjoy the corresponding benefits and treatment. But no matter what, the young man in front of him is an absolute genius-level existence. Monitor, you are so strong. Here, Yi Hao has finished dealing with the giants in the vast sea and returned to the stream with his flying sword. Zhao Li hurriedly greeted him, her eyes full of worry. She looked up and down Yi Hao's body, and found that there was no trace of damage on the other party's body. The worry in her eyes gradually dissipated, and finally, she spoke with excitement. That giant is quite strong. I estimate that one day he will be able to advance to the 4th level of martial arts. Yi Hao smiled and nodded. During the battle, Baiyan's heart kept beating, purifying the blood in his body, allowing him to continue to become stronger during the battle. It can be said that the time spent fighting the giant in the vast sea is equivalent to letting him practice for several days. It's a pity that the dragon man died too quickly. The giant in the vast sea, without the power to follow up, quickly collapsed completely. Unfortunately, it was too fast, so he was not completely happy. The principal is here. Zhao Li wanted to say something else, but out of the corner of her eye she saw the principal flying over. The principal usually showed up frequently, so she recognized the other person at a glance when he appeared. Yi Hao nodded, turned around and looked at the principal flying towards this side. He understood that it was probably his battle with the giant in the vast sea that had attracted the opponent's attention. I just didn't expect that his strength would be exposed so quickly. The guy he saved didn't seem to be simple, and he was able to attract the principal. It's just that the strength is a bit weak, but there are indeed many treasures. Thinking of this, Yi Hao had a strange idea in his mind, that is, the boy in front of him could not be the principal's illegitimate son. Classmate, which class are you in? Lu Chun came to the front and subconsciously used his mental power to examine the other party. The next second, a trace of astonishment flashed in his eyes. The other party's true realm is actually only at the 3rd level of martial arts, and he can fight back and forth with giants in the sea who are equivalent to the master realm. He even felt a terrifying mental power in the opponent's body, which may have reached the level of 3rd level mental power. It's a pity that the opponent seems to have no spiritual skills, so he has not been able to condense the Horcrux now. Thinking of this, he had another idea and his tone became very kind. Grade 3, Class 3, Yi Hao. Yi Hao had no intention of hiding it. After all, the other party would be able to find out his identity once he went out to investigate. Yi Hao, you are the student who just dug up the alienated golden patterned python. Lu Chun was slightly startled. He felt that the other party's appearance was familiar before. Now that he heard the other party's name, he remembered that the alienated golden patterned python mentioned by Lu Yong in the afternoon was dug up by a student named Yi Hao. At that time, the above information and the other party's photo were included, but it was a pity that he only had a quick glance at it. Now that I see myself, I understand. Now that I think about it, it's all right. With such terrifying mental power, finding the soul beast below is not a piece of cake. In addition, the transfer student's attention was all on Shui Qilin, and there was no one too strong to compete with him. It was just like cheating. Yi Hao nodded. I did find an alienated golden patterned python in the afternoon and sold it to Director Liu Yang for 1,000 high-grade soul stones. What, 1,000 high-level soul stones? That guy Liu Yang, didn't he say that he spent 3,000 high-level soul stones to collect it? Hearing Yi Hao say that only 1,000 high-level soul stones were sold, Lu Chun became furious and veins popped up on his temples. He didn't expect that the other party actually received so many kickbacks. It's 2,000 high-level soul stones at one time. Teacher Liu Yang may be doing this to subsidize the students in the Tianzhao class. Looking at Lu Chun, who was in a rage, Ling Chonger still couldn't hold back and asked for mercy for Liu Yang. I will definitely find out about this matter. You don't need to plead, even if he is the head teacher of the Tianzhao class. If he can't give me a reasonable explanation, I won't let him off easily this time. Quote. Lu Chun waved his hand to Ling Chonger, indicating that he didn't need to say any more. As a former disciple of the Tianzhao class, it was quite normal for Ling Zonger in front of him to speak for the other party. But in his eyes, this kind of kickback is absolutely not allowed to happen, and it was a one-time, so many kickbacks. Normally, he would just turn a blind eye. But now, because of the discovery of high-grade soul stone veins, so many transfer students and aristocratic families have their eyes on the school. Everything in the school must be done without leakage. Can't give those guys a reason. If this incident got him to the top, he would lose his position as principal. When the time comes, it will be for the high-grade soul stone veins. I'm afraid the whole school will be filled with chaos by those people. This was what made him most angry. Monitor, you seem to have said something that shouldn't be said. Looking at the furious principal, Zhao Li was so frightened that she took a step back, whispered into Yi Hao's ear. I'm just telling the truth. Yi Hao said helplessly. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. Looking at Yi Hao, who was still waiting, Lu Chun breathed a heavy sigh of relief, which made his mood better. Yi Hao, are you willing to go to the monster class? With your combat power, even if you only have a junior talent, I can guarantee you to enter. Lu Chun said straight to the point. But in his heart, he didn't quite believe that Yi Hao had just awakened his elementary talent. It's just that he has extraordinary talent, which makes it possible to have such a terrifying cultivation speed. Because he had already found the other party's information just now. How could a child from an ordinary family have so many resources? Then the only possibility is talent. No need, I'm fine in the regular class. Yi Hao shook his head and refused. The monster class was a mixed bag, and he only knew one Bai Ling. As for the others, they were basically transfer students from powerful families, and he didn't want to be the target of those guys. You can learn attribute skills by going to the monster class. Are you sure you don't want to go? Lu Chun looked at Yi Hao in front of him, his tone full of confusion. It doesn't matter if you don't go. My family also has attribute exercises. I'll go tell my dad about it. Zhao Li said quickly. If the principal hadn't mentioned this, she would have almost forgotten about it. She was so excited when she was with Yi Hao that she didn't even think of this. Quote. Looking at Zhao Li on the side, Lu Chun almost forgot that the only daughter of the head of the Zhao family was still here. Zhao Li, don't worry, even if I don't go to the monster class, the principal will definitely give me some attribute exercises. Yi Hao said with a smile. Lu Chun looked helplessly at Yi Hao in front of him, then took out a jade tablet from the space ring and threw it to the other party. There are more than a dozen attribute techniques here. You can see them for yourself and don't spread them to others. Remember to get good results in the martial arts exam. Quote. After saying that, Lu Chun flew away with Ling Chonger. He was anxious to talk to that guy Liu Yang about today's incident. As for accepting disciples, he no longer had the idea. After all, his mental power is only one level higher than Yi Hao's. When the other party condenses the Horcrux, he will be on the same level as him. He has nothing to guide the other party, at most he can just communicate. Therefore, there is also a mysterious skill in the jade block. As for whether to practice it or not, it depends on the other party's wishes. The principal is quite nice. Seeing that the principal actually gave the technique to Yi Hao, Zhao Li's eyes lit up. Well, let's get some food first, otherwise we'll starve that kid Zhang Sa. Thinking of someone who was still hungry after fighting for so long, Yi Hao couldn't help but laugh. Then let's go get the fish. Zhao Li also nodded. Puff! Yi Hao's energy and blood were released, forming a blood energy shield on the surface of his body, and he jumped directly into the water, causing waves to rise immediately. With this blood barrier, he can get enough oxygen even in water. You can stay a lot longer. The 33rd ancestor, it's up to you. Looking at Yi Hao getting into the water, Zhao Li quickly asked the request in her mind. You go to the creek, I will drive the fish over. Zhao Xuaning was quite helpless towards his junior, but he had no choice but to help him. Fortunately, it's not difficult. Thank you so much, 33rd ancestor. Zhao Li thanked her with a smile in her eyes. Then, she came to the creek. After a while, she saw a group of small fish swimming toward her. This fish is just right for fish soup. Looking at the white crucian carp in front of her, Zhao Li's eyes lit up. In Blue Star, due to industrialization, it is rare to see this wild small crucian carp. Only in the secret realm can you see this kind of wild crucian carp. The stewed soup is milky white and very delicious. Thinking of this, she quickly took out a bucket from her space ring, grabbed the milk carps and put them in. These should be enough. Not long after, Yi Hao emerged from the water. Due to the existence of the blood energy shield, there was not a drop of water on his body. There were more than a dozen fish skewered with water plants in his hands, most of which were common fish on Blue Star. After all, it looked so strange that he didn't dare to speak. Zhao Li, you made this little crucian carp pretty good, it's great. He came to Zhao Li's side, and when he saw the bucket at her feet, he looked at it curiously. After seeing the crucian carp swimming in the bucket, his eyes lit up and he couldn't help but praise it. Zhao Li was very impressed by Yi Hao's praise and said with a smile, this crucian carp can be made into soup, it must taste good. As I thought, let's go back. Yi Hao nodded. He also planned to make the little crucian carp into soup. The taste was absolutely right. Yi Hao, if you don't come back, I will starve to death. Zhang Sa, who had been waiting for it to get dark, finally saw Yi Hao coming back, and threw away the hoe in his hand and rushed over. Even the soul beast that was about to be dug up just now was too lazy to care. Don't worry, let's eat fish tonight. Yi Hao looked at Zhang Sa who wanted to eat the fish in his hand and said quickly. Then hurry up. Zhang Sa sat aside helplessly. Seeing this, Yi Hao had no choice but to set up a pot on the spot. Fortunately, all these fish have been taken care of on the other side of the stream. Just start doing it. This time, Yi Hao first made a soup from the small crucian carp. Milky white fish soup with little chopped green onions floating on top. Without adding any black technology, it looks extremely delicious. When the fish soup is ready, the grilled fish on the side is also ready. It is golden brown on the outside, full of aroma, charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Afterwards, Yi Hao sprinkled on the seasonings to add a bit of flavor. The rich aroma also drifted into the distance with the wind. Gudong, I feel deeply shameful for this behavior. It is extremely shameful to waste such important training time on eating and drinking if you don't dig soul stones properly. Quote. The students who came one night and didn't know what happened during the day couldn't help but swallowed when they smelled the fragrance. But then, he felt that his behavior had lost its sense of proportion, and he criticized Yi Hao and the other 3 people not far away. That fish grilling boss killed a second-level monster instantly this afternoon, are you sure you want to continue talking? Seeing such a bold guy, the students on the side couldn't help but remind him. After saying that, he walked far away. I was deeply afraid of being misunderstood by Yi Hao. The two of them were together. He originally thought that the other party was joking, but when he saw the classmates around him, they all looked at him as if they were avoiding the god of plague. He instantly realized that he had really offended the wrong person. I was so scared that my legs began to tremble, and I almost couldn't stand still. He ran away staggeringly. This guy is really timid. Yi Hao looked at the guy who escaped and had no idea of teaching him a lesson. It is estimated that the other party is already panicking to death, so this is the best punishment for him. After eating and drinking, Yi Hao was ready to switch to attribute-based exercises. The latter is more important between digging up soul beasts and converting cultivation techniques. After all, there are only 7 days before the martial arts test. That's it. Among more than a dozen attribute exercises, Yi Hao thought over and over again and finally chose a second-grade fire attribute exercise, blood flame technique. After cultivating to the realm of Dacheng, the qi and blood in the body are like flames, which can burn all things and are extremely powerful. That spiritual power really belongs to the principal. Yi Hao couldn't help but think as he looked at the magical skills placed at the end. He actually sensed the mental power that the principal released on him, and he also suspected that it was the other party. But it wasn't until he saw this book of spiritual skills that he was truly sure that the owner of that spiritual power was the principal. His, 4th grade exquisite mystical skills. But after seeing the level of this magical skill, Yi Hao also took a breath. 4th level, that is a powerful technique that can only be possessed by a strong person at the Grand Master level. Outside, the 4th grade skills are worth at least millions of low-level soul stones. Not to mention, the value of exquisite mystical skills that are superior to ordinary skills is increased several times. Now, I owe a big favor. Yi Hao held the magic skill in his hand, with a hint of helplessness on his face. However, he had no intention of refusing. An hour later, Yi Hao had already converted the technique he practiced into the blood flame technique. The qi and blood in the body are filled with red flames, and wisps of golden qi and blood can be vaguely seen. The 5th level of martial arts. Yi Hao opened his eyes, and red flames flashed past. As he breathed a long sigh of relief, some kind of restriction seemed to be lifted from his body, and his breath suddenly increased several times. He also did not expect that he had just successfully transferred to another level of cultivation, and he had broken through 2 minor levels at once, upgraded from the 3rd level of martial arts to the 5th level of martial arts, and his energy and blood had soared to 500 points. Try the spiritual skills again. Yi Hao clenched the jade piece in his hand and checked the information on the 4th grade magic skills. When he saw clearly the levels inside, he realized that his mental power had reached the 3rd level. If one's mental power reaches another level, one can condense soul weapons and become a 4th level soul master. You know, a 4th level soul master is a more powerful being than a swordsman master. After all, soul masters are notoriously difficult to deal with. Before, he tried to condense it into a small sword, but unfortunately he ended up with nothing like it. Now after reading this book of spiritual skills, he realized that it was because of his lack of mental strength. Now that I have this spiritual skill, I can steadily improve my mental strength. Yi Hao looked at the 4th grade magic skill in his hand and murmured. Then, he started practicing. This 4th grade exquisite mystical skill is called the star visualization chart. You can visualize the stars in the sky to hone your mental power. The longer you meditate, the better the amplification effect will be. Because of the blessing of mental power and talent, it took Yi Hao less than a quarter of an hour to get started with this star visualization chart. Then he chose the silver moon in the sky as the first target of his visualization. When he was actually visualizing, a silver moon slowly appeared in his sea of consciousness. His mental power became more and more solid under the illumination of the silver moon. But in this process, his mental power was also consumed rapidly. As time went by, he felt that the silver moon in the sea of consciousness was getting bigger and bigger, as if it was about to burst his sea of consciousness. Is this the limit? Yi Hao looked at the silver moon that was getting bigger and bigger, and felt that his brain was swollen. He also realized that he had reached his limit, and he quickly quit the state of visualization. He breathed a long sigh of relief. The mental power increased by about 3 points, and the visualization state lasted for 5 hours. Yi Hao looked at the time on his watch and calculated the time of his visualization this time. And how much mental power has been improved this time. Although the numerical improvement this time was not much, Yi Hao found that his mental power had become much stronger. There is no longer such a heavy sense of vanity as before. All in all, I gained a lot this time. Sign in. Only then did Yi Hao realize that his talent for signing in had been restored, and he immediately chose to sign in. Sign in successfully, congratulations on getting 100 points of blood. Promoted again. Yi Hao looked at his energy and blood, which had increased by 100 points again, but there was not much emotion on his face. For him now, qi and blood are the least important thing. After all, Bayan's heart is improving his energy and blood every moment. If you can get 100 points of spiritual power this time, you might be able to meet the requirements for condensing soul weapons. When the time comes, with the strength of a 4th level soul master, I will be an invincible presence in the martial arts examination. Boom! Just when Yi Hao was about to take a nap, a deafening sound came from afar. He quickly called out the flying sword and flew into the air. When he saw the scene in the distance, he also showed a surprised look. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.